Good morning. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, sir, from Nigeria. Do we have Pastor on the call? Is Pastor on the call? Can anyone help me check? Let me see. Okay, I see him. Pastor, over to you, sir.
Oh, I thought they were supposed I was to come in at 3:05.
So we're trying to be faster today so that we'll have more time for questions and interactions.
All right, that's fine. So, first of all, let me welcome everyone, and wherever you are joining from. I did send out the invite to a couple of people in North America. So, if you are there, good morning. If you are in Nigeria, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our financial wellness webinar. I want to, first of all, thank the committee for putting this together again, and at least you have met your target, even though delayed. So we will have a conversation to ensure that the projected time target is not exceeded going forward, because we want to ensure that we make the necessary impact in the lives of people. I'm delighted to see that a number of our church family and friends are gathered for us to grow in wisdom, in stewardship, and in kingdom impact. Tonight or this evening, it's about money, but not just money, money with a mission. And as we've taught in class, in church many times, there is an eternal significance when it comes to finances. So we want to learn practical skills. We want to renew our mindset. We want to align our finances with God's will so that we can not just bless our families, which is important, we can also fund the work of the gospel and be able to serve our communities. In Deuteronomy 8:18, the scripture says, "It is he who gives you the power to get wealth." Proverbs 24:3-4 says, "By wisdom a house is built." And then 3 John 2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospereth." And so I will share a few words of prayer, then the facilitators will teach, and then of course there will be Q&A if necessary. So I want you to honor this time, stay present, expect God to meet us with light, with clarity, and courage. As we pray, we want to thank you, Father, for this time. You are the God of all wisdom and the God of provision. We acknowledge you as our source, as our sustainer, and we declare that every good and every perfect gift comes from you. We want to thank you for life. We want to thank you for health. We want to thank you for the opportunity to grow in financial wisdom today. We welcome your presence in this webinar. We welcome the light of your Holy Spirit that we ask now to brood over the gathering. We ask that you will open our minds, you will cause our anxieties to be quietened, and you will sharpen our discernment. Let the entrance of your word give us light according to your word in Psalm 119, verse 130. We pray that the practical truth that will be discussed tonight will become the path that we can walk on. We ask that you will align our hearts with your purpose. You will deliver us from the culture of wealth without work. Wealth without work. That is the prevalent mindset today. We pray that the lure of shortcuts will be one that will be delivered from. Form in us the spirit of diligence, the spirit of integrity, creativity, and patience. Teach our hands to work, our minds to create value, and our hearts to steward the resources that you have placed in us or with us with eternity in view. We ask, oh God, that Deuteronomy 8:18 will be activated in our lives. Grant us the power to get wealth. Grant us the ideas, the skills, the partnerships, and the staying power to build sustainability. Breathe on all businesses that are here tonight, Lord, and the ministries. Let there be innovation that will solve real problems and create honest gain. We ask, oh God, that you break unhelpful patterns and lift the burdens of your people tonight. We pray for grace to exit the circles of death, late fees, and wastages in the lives of people. We receive the wisdom for budgeting, the courage for saving, the discipline for planning, the clarity for long term goals. And we pray that where shame or fear has ruled in the finances of people, replace it with hope, replace it with a sound mind, according to your word in 2 Timothy 1:7. And finally, Lord, we pray that you protect and shield us from scams, from predatory schemes, from manipulative voices. We ask that you heighten our spiritual and financial discernment. Let prudence guide us. Establish accountability and truth in our financial dealings. And we pray that you prosper us to be a blessing to other people. May our prosperity carry the fragrance of Christ, the justice of Christ, the compassion of Christ, and good works. And Lord, restore those who are having financial wounds. Let households be established, O God, in financial soundness. And we ask, Eternal Rock of Ages, that as you instruct us tonight, we will obey. We receive grace not just to be hearers, but also doers. Bless our facilitators. Let the complex topics become simple. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Sorry for the long prayer, but I'm still within my time. I've given you 2 minutes back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. And amen to all the prayers. And welcome to everyone that's joined us. Please, if you know someone that needs to be financially well, please reach out to them. Today is that day. This is the season. We'll go ahead to our guest speaker. She's going to be talking about economic outlook. She is Dr. Bumi Bajomo. Dr. Bumi Bajomo, a woman of many firsts. She is an accomplished banker, economist, and financial expert with over 27 years. Then I'll ask him, how old are you? I'm joking. Oh, of 27 years. She leads high-performing teams across diverse African, European, and Asian markets, renowned for her business pioneering roles and business development acumen across multiple global and top-tier banking institutions. Dr. Bajomo possesses a proven record that spans corporate and investment banking. Dr. Bajomo, was pioneer head business banking at Stanbic IBTC. She was recognized as a high potential woman in CEEMEA by Citigroup and voted International Corporate Banker of the Year 2022 by NewsDirect Media. Her career is attested by several academic and professional laureates. Let's put our hands together for our dear speaker, Dr. Bumi Bajomo. It's great and it's good to have you here. Welcome, Ma. You have the floor now. Thank you for honoring our invitation. And welcome again. Thank you for joining early too. Welcome, welcome, Ma.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Sude, for the opportunity you have given me, and to my senior colleagues in the house and friends alike. I say thank you. Okay, I'm happy to be in your midst. I'm a redeemer somewhat, but also I'm a member of the Anglican Communion. So it's one God, one Christ. We thank you. Thank you very much. So today I'll be speaking on wealth creation, setting goals and achieving financial goals from an economic analyst perspective, but I will run through it because the issues around us are well known. So, like the pastor said, God desires that we flourish, we prosper, even as believers. So, to get us going, I wanted to, let me make my slide in slide mode. Okay, pardon me. So God desires that we flourish. In fact, Psalm 92, verse 12 to 14 says, the righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They will grow like cedars in Lebanon. Those planted in the house of our God will flourish, and they will flourish in the court of our God. They will bring forth in old age. They will be fat, and they will flourish. Fat does not mean fatness in weight, but ability to prosper, to create something out of nothing. And that analogy that the Bible drew around the palm tree. So, when you look at the palm tree, it's a formidable tree. It's a tree that lasts several years, decades. But some live as long as a century, and they do not wither. So, if you draw that analogy, that is exactly God wants the believers to be. That we thrive through in and out of season, in farming, in prosperity, in tropic weather, and when it is very, very dry, even in the desert. The Bible desires, our God desires that we flourish. So irrespective of all the economic situation around us, God's desire is that we flourish. And if you look at it, like the pastor said, the desire now is for the quickest of wealth. Nobody wants to pay the price. We just want to find ourselves at the zenith of prosperity, but it doesn't happen that way. And I sort of use different biblical passages to also try to see what does God word says around prosperity. And if you remember in Proverbs 22:29, Pastor, pardon me, he asks, have you seen a man that is diligent in business? He will stand before kings and not mere men. He won't stand in the court. He doesn't eat in the court of ordinary men, but he will stand where the decision makers are made. He will stand and he will be respected, and his voice will be heard. And if also further in that Psalm 22, it says, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the lender is the master of this borrower. But it doesn't say we cannot borrow, but we borrow purposefully. A wise man thinks ahead, but a fool doesn't, and they just brag, they just make noise. So I just pray that we don't end up being noisemaker, but we'll be impactful and we'll flourish. So now going quickly to economic analysis, this is Nigeria in a nutshell, just talking about it. So right now, our GDP is around $273 billion. Don't forget that a few years ago, we were very close to $500 billion. But because of everything that has happened in terms of devaluation of the currency, the high level of inflation, this is where we are today. But when you are looking at, when you say what is GDP, is the total sum of everything that we produce in an economy. And the gross national product, or the GDP, does not exist on its own. It's a function of what we consume as individual, as government. It's a function of the investment that comes in. It's a function of what the government have to spend, because what they spend is what will percolate into what we get in our pocket as citizens. And there is a function of our trade with the rest of the world, which we call the balance of trade, which is our exports less what we import and import and import. So if we continue to import, it will be a drag on our total production as an economy, as a citizen of Nigeria. So for my analysis and based on current situation, what we consume as households is about 70% of everything that we produce. So we consume a lot as a nation, but just like the rest of the world. Our investment, I've assumed, is around 15% of everything that we produce in the economy, and the government spends about, between 10 and 15%, but I have assumed 10%. But where that presupposes that we are producing what the government is spending. But if we don't produce it, it means that we will make up for it in borrowing. And if you look at this, I represent the government consumption by 27.3 billion. If you look at, since this current administration came to be in 2003, they've borrowed about $7.3 billion. Add that to the 21 billion that is projected between 2025 and 2026, then you come to nearly the same figure. Or another way is look at our total revenue as a nation. So in the last 1 week, the drumbeat has been on, the government saying, oh, they made their revenue projection, and if you look at that revenue projection in dollar equivalent, if I use the rate of 1,580, it comes to about $22.5 billion. Add the 4.6 billion that we made in oil revenue, and you get the same thing, So that is our country in a nutshell. So what are the good news? I mean, let's start from the positive. The positive is that unlike what we had since 2020 to 2023, even the IMF is now saying Nigeria will grow between 3.2, 3.4. So if you look at us in the Committee of Nations, maybe we're not doing badly where we are in terms of growth. The world is supposed to grow in this year by 3%. Next year is projected it will grow by 3.1. But we as a nation, they're saying we can grow at 3.5. And at some point, maybe to get to 4.0%. But if you mirror it to where we were before during the Jonathan administration, it's a far cry because, at some point in the life of that administration, even in the Obasanjo regime, we are touched well above 6% growth. And at the worst of Jonathan regime, we had 4.5% in terms of our total growth. So it's a journey. What we say is that, okay, the slide has been altered. If you look at where we were last year, we're looking at exchange rate of 2,000 naira to the dollar. But in the past the whole of this year, we've hovered around 1,500 to 1,500 and 5,300. So that is some positive. So in GDP growth-wise, we've grown. In terms of revenue generation, like I just told you, the government is saying as of August this year, they've made their revenue projection of 4.19 trillion by achieving about 42 trillion naira, which is the equivalent of 22-point-something billion dollars. And if you compare that to what we did last year, last year we only achieved about 73.8%. The good thing about this year is that it's a lot of non-oil contribution. And if you sat in many economic fora, you will see that the issue around Nigeria had always been that the non-oil level contribution to revenue had always been low. Our tax to GDP ratio was put at about 6%. With everything that has happened now, it seems we're turning a corner at that. The jury is out there because where are those revenues coming from? So we need to ask, are we turning a corner because we are making life very difficult for the SMEs, the importers, or it's because truly everybody is prospering, there's so much money in circulation, and the government is taxing it? So as we look at the non-oil revenue, you have to begin to look at where is the level of manufacturing. The purchasing managers index is about 50%. So it means that there's some level of growth. But is that where we're supposed to be? But if you look at countries like Indonesia, Singapore, the level, and even India, if you look at consistently, except in COVID time, India has always grown in the region of 6.9% to 7%. The same for China until last year when China recorded a 5% growth. But 5% is China. Is still the world apart from the rest of the world, Europe and even Africa. So yes, there are positive in that regard. Another positive is in terms of our diasporan flow and FPI. Because of the relative stability in the economy, there has been increase in the level of diasporan flow. So last year, total remittances was around $21 billion, which was a 9% growth over what we've achieved prior. But if you look at the diasporan contribution, it's significant because even the inflow that passes through the formal channel has now grown to around between 4.22 and 4.73. So you then ask what is contributing to the 20.98. If you look in terms of our capital flow, it's grown by around 152% from 2.6 billion in 2024 to where we are currently. And then, if you listen to the central bank governor, he's touting that diasporan flow will be 600 million monthly going forward. So we look forward to that. But based on what we've done in 2005, at least Q1, the total flow was around 328. So maybe the central bank governor is overly positive, but it's positive momentum and maybe it's achievable. Mr. Trump and all the other policies across the world allowing us. So, like I said, a lot of positive has happened in the economy. One has been that inflation has eased. You know, as Nigerians, we have a way of redefining our purpose and putting ourselves where we want to be. So at some point in the past year, our inflation was well above 30%. Then we decided to take our destiny in our hand. We rejigged our inflation basket. And then today we are 22. July is projected to be 21.7 now. That is fantastic. But you then ask, where is the impact? How is the ordinary person feeling it on the streets? Another contribution, I mean, the Naira appreciation, I've talked about it, is a major positive. If you look at where we were last year, who could have believed that at least we'll be here now? But it's a trade-off. We've had exchange rate stability, but the price level has remained high, expectedly, and that is reflecting in the inflationary pressure. And the one other thing you will see is that because there was so much inflation, especially around food inflation, the government has allowed a lot of import of raw material, aggressive importation, to stem the rise in food prices. And, you know, for a local producer who had invested in rice mill and all of those, you have to begin to ask, what are the impacts? Where are the impacts? How are they faring? So as we celebrate, we have to look at the policy impact of what is happening. So in terms of the local market, because the level of interest rates was so high to curtail inflation, now it's coming down. You've seen significant drop in TB level. As of early this year, around February, March, TB rate on 1 year treasury was well above 30%. So you've seen now that it's moderated by about 6-point-something percent to around 22.62. It's still very high. So for everyone who have liquid cash, I would say look at it. And there are so many instruments out there, so many money market instruments that people can invest in that will still give them commensurate return. One good thing we've achieved is that, you know, in period where we had those exchange rate volatility, the Naira dollar differential was absolutely negative. Remember that at some point, whereas our inflation was at 33%, the TB rate was pegged at 4%. So you had interest differential that was so close to nearly 15-20%. Who will come into such an economy? Whereas in the case where as you bring the money in, you lose above 15% right there and there. What we've seen now is that because the inflation rate has moderated to around 22%, and the policy rate, the monetary policy rate is at 27.5, you have a positive interest differential of 5.3 approximately. And that is what you see driving the flow of FPI into the economy. And that's what you've seen in impact on the capital market. So those are some of the things that are positive, but there are so many challenges in this economy. So stability does not mean all problems are resolved. It just means you're on the right trajectory. So what are our issues? Until now, it's been a lot of overdependence of oil. Oil contributes only about 7% in terms of revenue, but it accounts for over 90% of total revenue, you know, meaning that oil will take us out of recession, into recession, and oil will bring us out of recession, you know. But now with the renewed drive towards non-oil mobilization is positive, but I will wish that those non-oil contributions would also come from increased export flow. And you've seen some positives in that direction, but we can still do a lot more. A major problem that we face right now is high fiscal deficit and our debt profile. Remember, in this budget, our projected deficit was around 13.08 trillion. That deficit of 8.12 billion is equal to economies of several of our African brothers. So like I was saying, you can look at the economy of Sierra Leone, Liberia, Congo, you know, Brazil, and Central African Republic had it to guard Gambia, had Cape Verde, had even Eritrea. It still won't equate our deficit as a nation. And if you look at what we've done this year, our total debt is about $144.67 currently. That's about $94.3 billion. That is well bigger than the economy of Cote d'Ivoire. And then we projected that with everything that we've done this year, it will even increase further. With this $21 billion, that was recently approved by the House of Rep for the 2025-26 fiscal year. If everything is implemented, then we'll be touching well above 200 trillion at the end of this fiscal year. A major other issue is unemployment, which is well above 40% amongst the youth. And then you have high poverty rate of well above 38%, giving us a mystery index that is well above 71%. And it is projected that because of the impact of all the policy, the reform, a close to 4% also will fall into further poverty range, which means that a lot of them will earn less than $2.2 a day. Another major challenge we face is corruption. We are ranked 140 out of 180 nations surveying the world. So there are so many economic challenges. I've touched on the major one, the fundamentals, unemployment, interest rate, poverty, and a lot of infrastructural challenges, which the government now is beginning to pay attention to. At least you see that in the medium-term expenditure framework, there are so many projects highlighted. We pray they get implemented, and then we see the impact. Security concern is a major issue. Irrespective of what the government thinks, if they do not address security concern, it means that all of those plans might actually go through the window if nothing gets done. Sorry. Then, outside of that, like I said, corruption, and then you have environmental challenges, but I won't bore us with those. Sorry, my slide isn't moving. Okay, so with all of these issues, I was going to ask, where do we all stand? So, the journey, if you look at everything I've said, the journey becomes a TUT situation, tough, unique, and tasking. Then it calls for planning and proactive measurement. So in the face of mounting debt, taxes, loans, bills, local oil price increases. Today, Dangote is increasing. Tomorrow, they are bringing it down. I can only say sorry, daddy, and easy aunties in the house. But, and then I want to ask us, how well prepared are we for all of these challenges, daily expenses, utilities, clothing, feeding, vacation, transportation, even to an average worker, getting to work is an issue. And you see a lot of employers now saying, you can work 2 days out of office, work 3 days in the office. Those are things that are very strange to our economy. And then at some point, you saw some banks shutting down at 4 p.m. to be able to curtail their cost of operation. Then, you want to save, even with all these challenges, you want to save for education, health, emergencies, and then you want to plan for retirement, you want to leave a legacy, you want to plan for your dependent. So, I add, can we flourish with all of these challenges? If you have to live on your salaries alone, it might be a bit difficult to flourish in the face of all of the mounting issues that I've mentioned. But the world of now, the world of AI, the world of digitalization also now gives us an opportunity to look at avenues to creating other sources of income, to look at how you can invest and how you can reduce your expenses and fight inflation by engaging in profitable investment. So what is financial plan? The financial plan is the act of planning your the aspect of your life, financial aspect of your life, using some metrics as guide. You want to mirror your profit and loss, what you get and what you spend, to your balance sheet, which are the assets you have to power it. But what is connecting all of it is the cash, the liquidity. In the absence of liquidity, it's very difficult. So do we wait and then just leave this cycle of 9 to 5, waiting for between 22nd and 28th for the rain to fall? Or you want to take hold of our financial affairs? And I bet that we're all on this call because we like to take hold of our financial affairs. So my admonition will be, no, we can't wait. We have to immediately set our goals, analyze our risk, allocate resources, weigh all the options profitably and prudently, and begin to build a portfolio that takes us into the future. And, what does the Bible say about investing? Is it a strange phenomenon? Don't forget the story of the unprofitable servant. Even our Lord Jesus Christ frowns at people who are not productive or who are unprofitable or lazy people. Even our religion does not condone laziness. And you see that our Lord Jesus even banished the unprofitable servants. So the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8 or even more. You do not know when disaster will come upon the land. And then it says, divide your investment amongst many places. That is the principle of diversification, because you don't know where the risk lies. So you spread it around. And if you don't believe anything, don't forget that I don't know how many of us know the man called Mark Angel. Mark Angel making us laugh, looking this clownish. And we all laugh and say, really, or something like that. He made $4.3 million on YouTube in 2023. I don't know how much he made in 2024. We are knotting our ties, doing 9 to 5, doing everything, being serious. We think we are holier than thou. So if I ask some of us here, who is Mark Angel? You say you don't know. Is there any more than your CEO? So is there any more than all of us, even with our legion of degrees and everything? There is no job, paid job that will pay you. In fact, when you say my salary is $20,000, they will begin to dislike yourself, even at the interview panel. So there are options that can give us a lot. So I want to say, okay, so why does the Bible advocate that we diversify? You know, if you look at Philippians, it's telling us about the uncertainty around life. And Deuteronomy is telling us about the reason to take control of our destiny. And Proverbs 22:3 talks about diversification, you know, and then we now look at numbers of how to plan our early retirement goals. So even Oscar Wilde says it's better to have a permanent income than to be fascinating. Salaries are not permanent. You are here today, gone tomorrow. And when you look at some of the people that you know, the high and mighty, when they leave the paid job, you begin to wonder what has happened, even with the best of planning. People that are waiting 9 to 5, most of them cannot be on front row in church or pews. If they are doing special recognition, it's not likely that they will recognize you, because you know the movers and shakers are the people who have taken the risk and who are now reaping their benefits legitimately, I mean. So if you want to be one of those people that I say stand up for special recognition, we have to begin to look at other avenues. So broad areas that we can generate income stream from: real estate, you may buy and hold, you may flip, foreclosures, when assets are being foreclosed. Let's say in the era of AMCON, a lot of people have gotten properties at a bargain. Then single family investment, family offices, commercial real estate. Then in terms of paper and digital assets, money market instruments, stock, bonds, debentures, mutual fund, cryptos, and its derivative, if you understand. The best approach is to spare the wealth, and make sure at least anyone that hits it is like positive gambling. You have something there. So if today the stock market is on steroid, how much do you have there? No matter how little. Many years ago, all of us were costing our insurance investment. Today, you can see what is happening. One policy change can give life to a dead sector. Some years ago, a lot of us bought Cadbury at 40 naira, and it went as low as 2 naira in this lifetime. I'm happy I didn't sell. I actually told myself my kids will inherit it, I will not sell. And today, the last time I looked at it, Cadbury was at 65 naira. It's taking so many years, but have you really lost? Not, if you can waste it out. And that's why they say, don't invest under pressure. Invest what you own. And you know, you can only gamble to a less extent if you are borrowing to do. Some people sold their property because they did margin calls years ago. But if it was your money, you can as well close your eyes to it. And that's why they tell us, have a very long-term view. You know, a lot of us invested in Ohando flopped and flopped and flopped. Today is on the upward trajectory. There are so many stocks like that. I mentioned Cadbury, Union Bank. I don't know how much you bought yourself at. My very first bonus at my old place of work at IBTC I put everything in Union Bank. I thought, I was on top of the world. And then it went south. And then I had nothing. But it was my money, so it didn't matter. So it's taking all of my banking career for Union Bank to begin to turn a corner. But we're together. I'm not going to sell. So that's an opportunity. And then the business of now, infopreneurship, looking at this online thing, and not just online. If you see people who are profiting from this, they are not even the educated ones. They are people who have guts, who can take advantage, who can look stupid to the rest of the world. But for every time you look at Priscilla and Juma Juice, they are making money. For every time you look at all those comedians, they are smiling to the bank. For every time you share it, they are smiling to the bank. So we think we're educated, we have it all, we know it all. How much of our knowledge are we putting out there? How much of impact are we trying to make so that it's not just Yahoo or quick money that everybody is looking at? Have we put our stories out there for people to know that there are better ways to having financial stability and making a difference in the society? We should begin to look at it. And for a lot of us, we love our jobs, we like the announcement, we have the glamour of our 9 to 5, but it can't take us far, right? So we need to begin to look at entrepreneurship. In countries like Kenya, even if you are in paid employment, you have to have alternate source of income. So you can't meet a Kenyan who doesn't have a farm. That means the person is not a successful person, no matter at whatever level of their careers. And that's what we need to begin to imbibe. We have land that we're not doing things we just buy. Why don't you farm pineapple farming and begin to export or sell in country? There's so many opportunities. I mean, I'm in a country now, it rains round the clock, but food is very scarce, So why should that be in Africa? We have the weather, we have everything, but if we don't apply ourselves, outsiders will come and they will take the good of the land. So what must we do? Or what must we not do, the uncles, in this race for money? One thing we should not do is to this quick, I want to be rich very soon. And then people begin to offer us impossibilities. There are so many Ponzi's now. Agripreneur, buy this farm, you use this. I pity the people in diaspora. I don't know how many people have been hit severally. Virtual investments, nano investment, and these people just sweep everything and then they vanish into thin air. Thank God that SEC is now waking up, making a lot of informed announcements. Maybe it will help some people, but I can bet you people will still do it. Let me give you some figures around this Ponzi. And I know some of us are here in the days of MMM. Even when you go to a bank, the bank staff will be marketing MMM to you. You go to a company, you want to go and buy something. I remember I went to Swift office to repair my modem, and Swift staff was marketing me for MMM. It percolated that much. But look at the figures. Nigerians lost over 911 billion to Ponzi over the past 23 years. Some people put it actually as well above 1 trillion, in terms of losses to Ponzi. MMM alone took about 218 billion. And MBA Forex, 213. And, we've had all manner of stuff. And look at the phases of this Ponzi. What will make a university lecturer to give money to some of these people? Even looking at the promises, look at the young man from OAU, 22-year-old Joshua, promising over 40% flat in a month. And even professors were selling their houses to give to him. Wales, all of them. Look at how much people lost to MMM. I don't think we should fall true to that. If it's too good to be true, please run from it. Instead of Ponzi, please plan your finances, analyze the option, manage your wealth by self or through professionals. And, what you should not do is to procrastinate. With procrastination, we never achieve anything. Don't wait till you've made so much money. Start where you are and start with what you have. The journey of 1,000,000 miles will start from a day. Engage in wealth management. Look for professional wealth managers. And then the mantra is the higher the risk, the higher the return. So in early lives, yes, you can take a lot of chances. can do very risky investment. As you get to midlife and you have to pay school fees, you have to begin to moderate. You blend the speculation with safety. And in latter year, don't be a 65-year-old and start gambling everything on Bitcoin. Yes, Mr. Trump and his family are making it, but they are looking at it aggressively. If you don't have the time, please do not do it. There are so many investment options. There's so many Naira investment outlets. 1 year still bill is still well above 22%. You have the FGM bond. You have the commercial bonds as well. EcoBank transnational bond was at a coupon of 10.14 on the dollar. You have so many companies, Dangote, Presco, all of them who have issued commercial papers. I'm mindful of time, so I'm beginning to accelerate a bit. And then you have foreign currency denominated instruments. You know, a lot of institutions, banks, non-bank financial institutions now have foreign currency denominated assets. Wherever you stand on the spectrum, maximize your investment. Let's stop the habit of leaving money in our current account. I'm also guilty of that. Everything should be worked. It can be worked. You can work a lot of money market instrument now. You can give them the money in the morning, tomorrow morning, if you need it, you break it, you maximize it. And there are so many non-bank financial institutions, because they want to mobilize funds to lend to the real market, they are able to give you well above the treasury bills rate. Find the safe havens and invest your money and make the most of it. And then in the equities market, yes, the stock market is on steroids. I remember about 2 years ago, I was on TV, and I remember the stock market index was at 47,000 then. Look at where it is today. You know, it's like quadruple, you know, but with those growths come a lot of pain for some people as well. But if you have the long-term view, if you can do the quality investment, there are so many steady equity stock that yield dividends that you know over time. Look at MTN. During COVID, MTN fell so low. Some people got in there. Look at where it is today. So there are so many opportunities, even in the capital market. Just be safe, do it prudently, don't be too aggressive, and don't buy when the market has peaked. And I will ask, are we experiencing a bubble? If you look at the price to equity ratio on the market, it's around 7%. Typically around, you talk of bubble when it begins to get to 30. So maybe not. I think what has happened is because of the devaluation, the market is also correcting for what is the worth of 5 Naira before and versus 35 Naira now. And that's what you've seen also. But if you divide those things by the exchange rate, you will then begin to assess, have you really grown or not? You know. So in terms of equity, I've said it, I can move on. I want to get, so I've talked about fixed deposit, bonds, mutual fund, equity, CPs, commercial papers. What I will say is that no matter where you stand on the journey of life, make sure you enhance your savings, improve your living standard by planning. And it does not mean cut back, but deploy your assets and your resources into profitable ventures. And do not gamble with your resources. If somebody comes and say they are paying you 10% flat per month, where would the person invest the money? Even if you bought houses in Banana, you will not get 10% flat. 10% flat means 120% per annum. It is not possible. So please, let's be mindful and achieve peace of mind, because if you bungle this journey, then there will be no peace of mind. Diseases will set in. That's when all of life diseases start to afflict. And, you know, let's avoid that so that we can live our days in peace and in prosperity. So where do we go from here? I would say modify your lifestyle. Don't leave your entire salary profile. If you are earning 200, can you try to live like you are earning 80 or 100? You will still be fine. And then you can save the rest for the future. What happens is that as we get that new job, as we see that opportunity, we just immediately modify our lifestyle. We change our cars, we change our houses, we will log our sitting room. Our children's schools are no longer good enough. You know, why do you borrow to pay astronomical school fees for your children? Educating children does not have to be so much. A lot of us went to public school and we've thrived today. So why must you put your children where you cannot afford? Must they go to American International School where you know your salary is in Naira? Can you just make them live like appropriate human being? Put them in the midst of sane people and balance whatever the teachers are teaching them with your own values and ethos so that they can turn out to be better human beings. Even your kids will laugh at you when they know that you are owing your rent and you are taking them on vacation and then the landlord is coming, you are feigning sickness. That is not a good way to model kids. Let's live within our means. And then let's seek expert opinion. Yeah, they must charge you a little fee, but you will be better off and take calculated risk. And then I wanted to quickly touch on the issue of trust. So I want to ask, who watches your back when you no longer can? Having a pension scheme is one, but all of us we buy different sort of assets. Sometimes we know where the documents are. Sometimes we don't even know where they are. And then, you know, our beloved children, then you say, oh, my sister is my next of kin, my brother is my next of kin. The brother that has never handled $10 million, you know he's struggling. Then you want to put your children's affairs in his hand, and you've put aside 50 million naira. Is he not the one that will kill those children? He has children that are going to Ajangbadi primary school. He has 4, maybe he has 2 wives. And then you say something happens to you and you think that brother will take care of your 2 golden children. That will be fool's hardy. So it's not possible. So in place of this, let's look at in the direction of trust. A trustee has a fiduciary duty, a duty of care to watch over you, to work with you when you are in a position to work with them jointly. And then in periods where you can no longer help yourself, whether on the ground of infirmity or disease, or even when you are ill. We've had this situation where, so I started this trustee arrangement at EcoBank. I started championing it. We've had instances where clients who came under our trust then fall ill. He has a lawyer, he has children, he has a wife. But lawyers are not trained financial managers. They hold assets for you until the day they have to read your will. That's if you've done it. But a trustee is allowed and has committed to you to manage your affairs, to take care of you, your dependents. And that's under a private trust. And we have what we call living trust, which is what you do while you are alive and you are working with the trustee. And then you have the one that when you are no more, you have what you call testamentary trust. What that does is that even where you've now done everything you want to do and you put something aside, I will be wrapping up in another 5 minutes, and you've done everything you want. You want to make sure that whatever you've bequeathed to a child, the child has capacity to also handle it. If you bequeath $100,000 to a 10-year-old, you've destroyed his future. What will they do with it? It will become a drug addict. So what the trust does is that it marries the capacity of the child to what the child can handle. So a 15-year-old does not need so much money. He wants to go to school. He wants stipend to live his life. Let's assume both his parents even die. As soon as they have a trust, the child is well taken care of. He doesn't have to be beholden to one brother and his mood. Everything is taken care of. So I think this is an aspect that all of us have to look at and be sure we're doing it. Even where you've put everything in place and you've written away, if you fall ill, your son, like in the experience of the client I'm telling you, the son was telling us, must you spend this money on him? Because, self-preservation, don't let's waste it. He has cancer. Let's manage his end of period and make him comfortable. But the trust can decide to take care of you, take you to the best of hospital and make sure that everything that is humanly possible has been done for you. And they give you a chance at survival. It doesn't mean the family does not love you, but sometimes when people are going through adversity, they don't know how to think. And then I've recently had the instance of a client that took all his documents to a bank and kept it in custody. And sometimes we bankers were funny. And the bank staff encouraged him to start borrowing. He didn't want to borrow. Then he borrowed because he was not somebody that has had debt at borrowing. He had money in one account. He didn't migrate it to liquidate. And then the bank is saying they want to take care of they want to take hold of his Ikoyi property. In the place of a trust, even the bank will not have access to that. And when you discharge yourself of their obligation, you don't have to be at the mercy of bank manager to release your collateral. Everything is done through the trustee. So it's an aspect where you have to look at. The trustee becomes your companion, your relationship manager, your advocate when you can no longer advocate for yourself. And where you have collective investment scheme, you don't have to leave it in the hands of church executive or a susu in the hand of union executive. It can be managed by a trustee, so that it's not mismanaged. So I've talked about living trust, I've talked about wills, but everything that in here says plan your affairs while you still can. Don't say you have to own the world. As long as you have one or two assets that can be taken care of. And even all this, your education thing, you can put in a trust. There's nothing you can't create or trust around, even church affairs. So, this is where we are, and I'm wrapping up now, but like the wife of the prophet, Elisha asked her, what can I do for you? What do you have in your house? Sometimes we have so much and we don't know. And he said, your handmaid has nothing but a pot of oil. But the oil was enough to sustain her family. It was lack of knowledge. So what are those potential special abilities that we've neglected for so long? What are we seeking solutions to that we don't know? I think now you need to begin to reach out to professional. And like the Bible says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So let's take the wisdom of Solomon and manage our affairs. So let's maximize what we have in our hand, rather than complaining and lamenting about Nigeria's economic situation. In this land, even with all the difficulties, people are prospering. So let's find our own area of influence and begin to maximize. Some of us can sing when you hear it. What are you doing with those? Some people are doing, pardon me, we're in a church. I know somebody who is Yaorisha. All those people that wear white in marketplaces begging you for money. Then she turned it into something on the internet. Today, she's earning foreign currency, so it's as good as that and it's as bad as that. So what do you have? Let's begin to build capacity, maximize our learning, keep learning new skills, new trade. Let's sharpen the skill and let's keep serving and let's look at the business idea. It will surely pay off. So thriving means, if you diversify, you build, and you aim for success, look at the multiple income stream. We don't have to be at equilibrium, but you can maximize the present. Thank you, everyone. Apologies that I overran my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. Please, let's give a virtual clap. And for those of us here, please let's put our hands together. Thank you so much, Dr. Bunmi Bajomo. We really appreciate all you've impacted today. I can see the claps coming in. Thank you. And thank you to everyone that have joined today. We'll be continuing. We should by now have gone into questions and answers, but because of our time, I would say, please just type your questions. Dr. Bunmi is here. She will chat back. Hope that's fine by you, Ma.
Okay. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, let's start now. No procrastination. If you need to buy the chair, if you need to start up a business, please do today. Make that call. Get that connection. Thank you so much. And meet the professionals. That's really key. Don't do it on your own. Thank you so much, Ma. So we'll go ahead immediately to Mrs. Doyin Ayehe. Mrs. Doyin Ayehe, thank you so much, Ma, for joining. Still very early. All our guests joined very early today, and we really appreciate that. Mrs. Doyin Ayehe is the Executive Director, Alpha Morgan Bank. Adedoyin, I'll call you that now, she is a businesswoman. She holds a BSc Economics from the University of Calabar and MSc Digital Currencies from the University of Nicosia, Cyprus. She has over 20 years experience Where does this age go to? All our ladies looking so sharp. Well done. It means we are taking care of ourselves. Onoma, the ladies, we are taking care of ourselves. That's what it means. She has over 20 years experience in the banking sector, covering public sector, commercial, retail, and private banking, and is a registered capital market operator with the Securities and Exchange Commission. She has attended various courses, including professional and executive courses at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. Oh, Pennsylvania, sorry for that. And the Harvard Business School, sorry for that. So we'll be listening today, we'll be hearing from her, you and your money, maintaining a healthy relationship. Over to you, Mrs. Doyin. Thank you for coming. We appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Yes, my name is Doyin. Before I start sharing my slides, let me first thank the Redeemed Christian Church of God Israel Assembly, Lagos Province 2, and Pastor Ephraim Asinde for the opportunity to, speak on this platform. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Redeemed Church. And I pray that this session will be beneficial to everybody who has joined. Let me share my screen right now. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, let me put this on slideshow. Give me a second. Trying to put this on slideshow. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay, let me share again. Can you see my screen now?
It has not come up here.
Okay, hold on.
Dr. Bumi, you have questions rolling in. You want to start responding to them. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, share screen. Sometimes this technology just messes with you. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So my name is Doyin. I'm going to jump quickly into it. Like you said, I'm an executive director with Alpha Morgan Bank. And this is going to be my presentation outline. I'll start with the session objective, go through what we mean by developing a healthy relationship with money, emotional health, keys to financial discipline, some suggested tools and techniques, and just some closing remarks. So today, my goal here is to help our participants see money differently, not as a mystery or a burden or even a symbol of status, which is what a lot of us seem to look at money as today, but to look at money as a servant on a mission to help us achieve our God-given purposes and to advance the kingdom and to give us a comfortable life. God says in his word that he has given us all things to enjoy. And money is central to that, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Money is something that we can master and direct and deploy in a way that it gives us peace of mind. I know the thing is, God has designed this world to run on principles such that regardless of your race, color, or creed, if you follow the principles, you will get the results. So, for example, the scripture says that if you don't work, you don't eat. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10, it says, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. So it goes to show you that it didn't say if a Christian does not work, it says anyone. So anybody that follows the principle of work is expected to earn money to eat, and the Bible teaches us about hard work and diligence. It says that lazy people are made poor, but hard workers get rich. These are Bible principles. Again, it didn't say if God's people, it just says people generally. God has put a principle of seed time and harvest. So if you sow, you will reap. If you plant during planting season, barring any unforeseen circumstances, when harvest time comes, you will harvest. So it is what you sow that you will reap. The Bible says in Proverbs 14:23-24 that in all labor there is profit. An idle chatter leads to poverty. So it is expected that we should labor, because if you don't labor and work, you will surely end up in poverty. And what is interesting here is that scripture ends by saying the crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. So riches is a symbol of wisdom, is an indication of wisdom, because if you walk in wisdom when it comes to your finances and your financial habits, it will eventually result in riches and in money in the bank. And as I said, money is central to all of this because money is a medium of exchange. In this world, the only form of exchange that will give you what you want or what you need or what you desire in terms of barter is money. You cannot sustainably use grass to collect food or sand or looks or prayers. They might work where somebody is willing to exchange, one good for the other. But centrally, if you go to Australia, you go to US, you go to China, you go to Kenya, money is a medium of exchange that is globally accepted. And so we need it. We need it. The Bible says in Proverbs, Ecclesiastes 10:19, that money answers all things. Not that it answers all things when it comes to things like emotional stability and all of. In the exercise of what is required for getting your daily needs, money will answer that question or answer that need. And it even encourages us. It says, make friends for yourselves. But what does that mean? It's basically saying that even with money, you can impact lives and build relationships, not by way of buying relationships, but by doing meaningful things that would create meaningful relationships between you and people that you encounter. So money is very important for us to have, to know, to master, and to understand how it works. And so I want to start with what it means by developing.
Hello, doctor. Sorry, Mrs. Can you open mute? Hello? Can you hear us, ma? Mrs. Doing? Can anyone hear her?
No,
No,
we
maybe
can't.
her internet.
Okay, so we'll wait a bit. So
Someone can give her a call to see what's going on.
Yes, we will do that. Doctor, you want to share any insights from the questions on the chat? Anyone that really...
I'm sorry, I actually didn't see the question. I just sent a mail to Madam Onome. It's not visible to me.
Okay, let me read one or two. Let me read one.
There is something on the top of the Zoom panel. It says Q&A. If you click on it, you will see the questions displayed. On the Zoom.
Yeah, I actually clicked on it and it says no answered questions.
No, you click on the questions. There are three panels: open, answer, dismiss. So if you click on open, it will show you the questions, then you will answer them. It's after you answer that the answers will appear under answered.
I'm actually on open. It says only host and panelists can see. So I don't know.
Let me just wait them.
Okay.
So let me take some. Please, what is the best share to invest in? I'd like to know more about it.
No, I would just say that, okay, it will be the shares that have fundamentals, because what you call fundamentals are the drivers of the companies. What is attracting you to those shares? So you want to look at how long the company has been around. Do they pay dividend? Are they making profits? If they are not making profits, what is the future? Like if you look at MTN last year, MTN was not in the red. But you will look at where would MTN go to? Would they leave Nigeria? Or what does the future hold? As long as those three questions are in the positive, I will say you can invest in them. So it doesn't mean that it must be a stock. So like now, the government has brought out a policy saying they are recapitalizing the insurance sector. So it means that on the basis of recapitalization of the insurance sector, they will be bigger, they might be more purposeful. So
sorry, I got disconnected.
Okay, great. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
And what did you hear last? So I know where to continue from.
Share your slide. Let's go back to this slide. Let's see. But not so long, man. Not so long.
Okay. Let's see. Can you see my slide now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so where did we stop? I'm not even sure where I got disconnected.
The next one.
Here.
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying how the Bible didn't say money is the root of all evil. It is the love of money that is the root of all evil. And so a healthy relationship is to dissociate any love or lust for money from actually understanding money and deploying it in a way that it helps us to achieve what, our purposes, it fund our purposes, serve our families, advance the kingdom, and create opportunities for others. Money is emotional because money represents even our very time. The money we earn is directly proportionate to the amount of time that we commit to whatever we are doing, whether you're in paid employment or you're in business. And so money is emotional. Money is it's not just number, it's not just numbers, it's memories, it represents fears and hopes and even some family patterns. You will see situations where people were raised in families where money was scarce. And so even when they grow up and have their own families and living their own lives, they may have an unhealthy relationship with money, fearful that, oh, this money will finish. And so it might impact the way this person lives their life. Likewise, somebody who was born into wealth, who probably doesn't really respect money and doesn't see money as anything, probably would also not have financial discipline. And if they didn't grow up in a situation where they were taught about money or learned the value of money, they would treat money anyhow and use it anyhow. And so money is emotional. Money is also, like Brad Conn says, we are not born with money beliefs. These beliefs that they are passed down to us, and oftentimes they are unconscious. So we owe ourselves a responsibility to unlearn certain things about money, and we learn correct principles about money. And what I want us to see is, as I said at the beginning, is that money is a servant that we can deploy. And some of the emotional traps that we need to watch out for are things like impulse spending. Even I am guilty of this sometimes. You see something that you like, you have no plan for it, but you just buy it because you have the money to do it. So we need to watch out for impulse spending, because impulse spending is emotional. If you don't have guardrails, or you don't have a principle of living from a budget, you're going to be an impulse spender, and you will end up looking back and having nothing at the end of the day because you've spent everything impulsively. Money shame creates avoidance. When Pastor was praying, it struck me because it was something he prayed about. People who have experienced shame as a result of money. Some people actually avoid looking at their bank balance because of the shame of, I don't have enough, or I haven't saved enough, or I'm not able to meet my family's needs. And shame creates silence, and silence delays solutions. And these only just goes to increase pain. And so we need to confront some of these emotional traps like relationship stress, because many marriages today suffer because of unspoken fears and mismatched values when it comes to money. One spouse may value, the security of having money in the bank, and the other is more like, well, I beg, well, we might not be here tomorrow, let's just blow the money. Without communication and sitting down and working in agreement, this same money can become a battlefield. In fact, a lot of marriages are broken based off of issues around finance and money. And then another emotional trap is self-worth versus net worth. Some people view their self-worth based off of their net worth. I feel really good about myself because I have so much money in the bank. In some cases, you see people who are arrogant is because of how much money that they have. But we need to be able to dissociate and detach self-worth from net worth. It's not money that makes us. And financial setbacks are not identity failures. They are challenges that we have to learn how to overcome. And then developing a healthy money mindset, which rests a lot on gratitude. Because when we work in gratitude, then you reduce the incidences of envy or the feeling of dissatisfaction. Working in contentment breaks the cycle of comparing yourself with your colleagues, your peers, people that you feel have more than you. And as we all know, faith in God and the word restores peace more than what money can give. And so these are some of the, mindset we need to deal with, because as we all know, every battle starts with the mind. If you can deal with the issue in your mind, you have already won 50% of the battle. So we're going to move into financial discipline now. And basically, financial discipline talks about the ability to make money decisions that will serve your future, money decisions that will secure your financial future today. It is the ability to control your money rather than letting your money control you. And it's not necessarily about whether you're rich or you're earning more. It's more about being more disciplined and intentional with what you currently earn, and building a system around what you already earn to the point where you can grow it and, develop financial freedom. It's like physical fitness. When you go to the gym, the more you work the muscles in your body, the more strength you get, the more form you get, the more even that muscle grows. So it's the same thing with financial discipline. The more you exercise it, the better you get, the more strength you get, the healthier you get financially. And these are some of the core principles. Starting with the first things first is to educate yourself when it comes to finance. Nothing happens by chance. You cannot work what you don't know. And when the last speaker spoke, one of the things we need to do as individuals and families is to work with financial experts, bankers, stockbrokers, people who can not only give us insight as to what is obtainable, but people who have the experience to guide our financial decisions. Some people have personal financial advisors. Even if you can't afford one or you can't identify one, just by exposing yourself to, the news, seeking out information, asking the right questions, going to the bank, ask questions about the products that they have, you will feel more confident and more empowered to be able to take financial decisions that will work for you ultimately. And then what we need to cultivate is savings culture. Now, when we talk about financial, personal finance, we're talking about things that have to do with budgeting, saving, investing, protecting your money, and then generally just avoiding mistakes that a lot of us make with money. And it starts with, after having developed that knowledge or gained that knowledge, to take daily steps in practicing this financial discipline. It starts with savings. Savings is not something that happens by chance. It's something that must be systematic, to the point that if you know that no matter what you earn, a certain amount of what you earn is saved. It's something that when you build the discipline and the culture of it, after a while, it becomes second nature. Somebody said that the poor spend what they have and then try to save. But the wealthy save first, and then they save first and then spend from what is left. So that is one principle we must learn, the principle of saving. Because if you don't have savings, you can't move to the next level of investments, because it's from savings that you invest. Oftentimes, people want to jump into investments, but they realize that they don't have all it takes to make meaningful investments. And that's what pushes some people into the get-rich-quick schemes. Save first, learn the ropes, understand how investments work. When you get comfortable, then move into investments. And I'll talk about different types of investments later on in this presentation. And then budget, it's tied to what I'm saying about savings. When you budget, you know that if I get my salary or my business earnings, a certain portion goes to my savings, a certain portion goes for my family, a certain portion goes for education. And again, I'll talk about different types of budgets further on in the presentation. And then also delay gratification. It's not every desire that you must fulfill today. The ability to be able to delay satisfying some wants today is critical to building wealth for the future. And then build systems. There's a way, a system forces you into aligning with your goals and your objectives. So if you know that I'm going to set up, I earn 100,000 or 200,000 or 5 million every month, and I put in an automatic transfer system that I know that once my salary hits a certain amount by the close of that day is leaving that account, then it forces you to not be able to put your hand into what you should have saved. So build systems and not just rely on willpower, because willpower will fail you. So work with systems. Systems will help you with financial discipline. I talked about, the different types of budgeting. Some people adopt the 50-30-20 rule, where you spend 50% of your income on your needs, your rent, your food, your transport. We live in a country where rent is paid annually. You need to save towards your rent. In the Western world, rent is paid every month, so it doesn't catch up with you. Rent is something you don't mess with. But oftentimes, Nigerians, you see some of us struggling with rent, but you know that this rent was coming. You knew this rent was coming. So put that money away, save it, even if it is for your rent. So some people, like I said, use the 50-30-20 rule. 50 on income, 50% of your income on essentials, rent, food, transport, 30% on things that are not important. And if you can be even more frugal, you can even increase what goes to your needs from 50% to even 60% and reduce the wants, and then 20% on savings and investments. If you earn a lot, you may even reduce that 20% to 10 to 15%, because what you earn is what determines how much these percentages work out to be. And then some people use the zero-based budgeting, where every amount of money I make is given a job. Nothing is left idle, nothing, there are no idle funds. Like Dr. Bajamo said, no money in the bank. In fact, when you have too much money in the bank is when you start spending unnecessarily, or people will start coming with needs that you can avoid. So zero-based budgeting, every naira has an assignment, so there's no idle funds. And then you have the envelope or digital pockets, where you divide your cash into categories. Once that wallet is empty, the spending for that category ends, because that way you're telling your money exactly where to go. You don't wake up tomorrow and say, where did my money go? And then these are some of, I won't go too much into this. These are just some tools and techniques that you can use, where you pay, for example, if you're already in debt and you need to manage your debt. We don't really have a lot of debt in Nigeria. We don't have a credit card system. Debt is usually mostly like, friends and family. So I won't spend too much time on this. And then have an emergency fund, where you aim to have like between 3 to 6 months of essential expenses in a safe, accessible account, so that if anything happens, you can access this emergency fund. And then for basic investing, I talked about investments. So let's go into investments. You need to start early, because time matters. Time matters. Start early. Compound interest is times multiplier. Somebody who started investing at the age of 25 is going to have way more money at the age of 50 than somebody who starts investing at 45, depending on what they earn. Diversify your investments. You can't put all your money in one asset. Like Dr. Bajamo, showed, you have different investments. You have stocks, you have money market instruments, debt instruments, bonds, and real estate. You can't gather all your money and put in real estate, or gather all your money and put in the bank. Diversify and have a good portfolio. Also understand your risk, because with high risk, don't always look at the high returns. Always think of the worst case scenario. What could go wrong? What could be the downside risk? And that's what happens with high risk investment. High risk will give you high returns, but high risk will give you high returns, but high risk can also give you zero returns. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I'll go into that further on in the presentation on life stage investment strategies. What do I mean by life stage investment strategy? The younger you are, the more risk you can take. The older you are, the less risk you can take, because if you are 40, 50, 60, you're closer to retirement. If you lose any money in any investment, the ability to recover is limited. You have less time to work and recover that, versus somebody who carried all their money and invested in crypto. If they lose everything, well, guess what? They're just 25. They still have another 40 years to work and recover. So the younger you are, the more risky you can be. The older you are, the less risky you should be. Your focus should be on capital preservation, preserving what you've worked for all your life. Old age or retirement is not the time to start your hand on farming that you have not done before, because you can go and use your pension now or your gratuity, buy 10,000 birds. Then 2 weeks down the line, you go back to the farm and all the chicks are upside down because they've all died from one disease. That's not the time to start testing your hand on anything you're not familiar with. You take all those risks earlier on. So when you're younger, between 20 and 30, seek for higher growth. Look, you can put your monies in things like stocks, equity funds, money market investments, real estate. You can even do some side business, in crypto. If you understand crypto, get into crypto, aggressive pension funds. Today, the way our pension funds are segmented, You have the medium risk, you have the low risk, you have the aggressive risk. The older you are and closer to retirement, even your PFA will advise you on what type of pension funds you should put your money in. Once you're getting towards retirement, they will move you from the more aggressive funds to the less aggressive funds. When you're in your mid-career, your 40s to 50s, you can do a balanced mix, still continue to grow your stock portfolio, your government bonds, stable real estate, stocks, balanced pension funds. Once you're entering pre-retirement, 55 and above, you need to start lowering your appetite for risk and stick more with more less risky investments like the treasury bills, which are government-backed securities, the bonds, dividend stocks, rental properties, things that are not going to jack up your blood pressure. And then once you enter retirement, like I said earlier, capital protection is the name of the game. Don't start going into all these things. They'll say, oh, one person bring two people bring three. Like Dr. Bajimo said, Ponzi schemes, all those types of things. Those are you don't even want to look at those. Stick with your government bonds, money market instruments, annuities, high quality fixed income instruments that you can get through the banks, and then investments to avoid, get rich quick schemes. Anything that is unregistered, you have all these companies that always come up. They will say they are paying you 30%, 40% return. Check. Are they registered by the Central Bank of Nigeria or the Securities Exchange Commission? If they are not, run. Do not put your money in any unregistered investment house or scheme. Any investment you don't understand, whether you're young or old, your money is your life, in the sense that this is what you have woken up from 9 to 5 for throughout the year. Then you want to go and put it in something you don't understand. It doesn't make sense. So avoid investments you don't understand. As I said, pyramid schemes. One person bring two people bring four. When they bring, the cycle will be complete. You start another cycle. Just avoid them. Ponzi schemes. It always works for the first set of people that come in. By a certain time, it's going to crash. Forex trading is something I hear about all the time. How many Forex traders do you know that have been successful? Those things are so specialized that if you don't have the knowledge of it, don't even bother entering it. This is not the time to start learning. If you haven't learned it early on and mastered it, just avoid it. So I'm going to close with this, that wealth isn't just accumulation. It's actually, God calls us stewards. There's a scripture in the Bible when God gave the people the talents, and they all worked with the talents. The one that had 5 brought back 5. The one that had 3 brought back 3. The one that had 1 went to go and hide it. And God said, you could have just put that 1 in the bank and it would have earned me interest. So God actually expects us to master money and to grow our wealth. So let's not demonize money or make it look like it's a carnal thing. We need to master, because we are stewards over money and we're expected to show good stewardship. It is a test and a trust that God uses to teach stewardship, faithfulness, and generosity. And when we handle it well, it is an opportunity to build and to bless people. Of course, when we mishandle it, we know what can happen. The Bible says that whoever can be trusted with very little will also be trusted with much. As I said, it's not just about accumulating wealth or just gathering money, but it's about putting money to work and putting it to work for you. One other thing is developing a healthy relationship with money is to ensure that we build little by little. There is no principle in God's green earth that gives you miraculous money doubling, where you put money today and then you put 1 million today and by next week it has become 20 million. It doesn't happen. It is not God's way. God says that dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little will make it grow. Is little by little. Any mindset of wanting to double your money in record time is not a godly mindset and is not a healthy mindset. And we need to do away with it. It's not magic. It grows by discipline, by wisdom, and by patience. Thank you. And I've come to the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We really, that was very insightful, and I can see all the thumbs up, the claps, and everything. Thank you so much. At this point, we'll take questions. If there are questions, you can please, we'll take just one question because we have to go to Mr. Folagbade. Any question, just one person, one question. The others, you can please type. You can please type, Mrs. Doyin would respond. But if there's anyone that wants to unmute and speak, please raise up your hand, we'll do that. Temitope, do you want to speak? Okay. All right, Temitope is no more on the call. We saw your hands up. So, no idle funds. No idle funds from today. Every cash we have, give it a job. No idle fund. We'll go quickly to Mr. Folagbade Adeyemi. Mr. Folagbade Adeyemi. Mrs. Doyin, please stay on the call in case we have questions.
Okay.
You'll just help with that.
How do we answer are we answering the questions now?
Yes.
So it should be now, but because of the time, we should start with Mr. Folagbade by 4:35. So I'll just run through his introduction. Questions will be typed. Please help us respond via messages. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. So, can I call you the only man today? No. Pastor Ephraim was here. Pastor Nakaya will be here, so you're not the only man. And we have so many men on the call. But
Yeah.
really a pleasure to have you today, sir. Really a pleasure to have you. You'll be
Thank you so
speaking.
much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Folagbade Adeyemi will be speaking to us on financial investment options, local and international. Local and international. Mr. Folagbade Adeyemi is a seasoned finance and capital markets executive with deep expertise in security transformation across the financial services sector, innovative solutions that enhance market efficiency and investment accessibility. Transitioning into the financial market infrastructure space, Mr. Gbade led clearing and settlement operations and played a pivotal role in launching market solutions that enhanced operational efficiency and liquidity management. His leadership has also extended into fintech startups, where he has successfully guided firms from inception to growth, leveraging technology to modernize financial services. Please put your hands together for Mr. Folagbade. Please now, please support me. Thank you, thank you. Over to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for the welcome. It's a very warm welcome. I am very pleased to be here. I really must say that it feels like almost all the work has already been done for me. The speakers ahead of me, Dr. Bajomo and also Doyin, have done an excellent job I must say. It feels like if we were writing an exam, it feels like I almost dubbed their work. But ultimately, we'll be speaking, and it just goes to show that the core principles of finance and wealth creation are very simple. They're out there, easier to hear about, harder to implement, but can be done ultimately. So I'll just do a deep dive. I'll just go straight into what we'll be talking about. I think what I'll try to do very clearly is to have a practical conversation around wealth creation and habits. I think it's easy to learn about stocks, it's easy to learn about bonds, but when you now try to domesticate it to your lives is where the challenge ultimately gets to. I have about 20 slides, so I think I have about 1 minute per slide. So what I'll try to do is be very quick, and where, if need be, I'll circle back to any concepts. So key financial terms is what we'll start with. Again, assuming zero knowledge about finance terminologies, because there's a lot of jargon. I'll try to break it down. Debt, inflation, and wealth creation, and how these things intertwine and ultimately affect one another. Secondly, there's also the why wealth creation matters. Then we'll also go to wealth creation habits, generational wealth. I think Dr. Bajama already touched on this, and I think it'll be very important for me to also build on that foundation she's already stated. Then practical steps, and we'll then take it to Q&As. So effectively, we'll start with what the definition of wealth. I think, again, assuming zero knowledge around, again, I don't know how versed anybody is, but ultimately, what is wealth? Wealth is effectively a state of being, let's call it that, whereby your assets far exceed your liabilities. Your assets are able to generate more and more income for you than the ability of your liability to drag you down. So it ultimately is just includes ownership of financial assets, stocks, bonds, money, government securities. And I think my work is also to start talking around the frontiers, the newer frontiers of things that are happening today, digital assets, crypto, art, tokenized assets, and whatnot. Then effectively speak to what you need to do to create wealth. And effectively, creating wealth is, again, just ensuring that you amass more assets than your liabilities are able to drag you down, and ensuring that you create those assets in a way that one leads to another. And I also have to highlight very clearly that because you're wealthy doesn't mean you don't have debt. One also needs to be very understanding of the fact that even the wealthy employ debt in the process of creating wealth for themselves. But ultimately, sorry, just hold on one sec. Ultimately, why does wealth creation matter? Because it gives you financial independence. I mean, with a certain level of wealth, you're not going to be asking when you want to buy a ticket, you're not going to be asking how much the ticket is. Most times anyway, in some situations, you won't even be buying the ticket by yourself. You just tell someone else to buy it for you because you definitely know that you covered it regardless of whatever season it is or regardless of whatever day it is. Then you are very secure in what is going to happen, and especially in the future. That's especially if you put in mechanisms to secure that wealth. Then it ultimately helps you create a support structure for your family and also for future generations to come. And ultimately, legacy building is very important. And I think I'll just stop on that. Of everything in this entire 30 minutes conversation I'm going to have, out of what a lot of people have said, I think what I'm going to highlight the most is debt and inflation. Assets I've already spoken to. They've already spoken to a lot of what assets are. Ultimately, assets are really things you acquire that helps you create more and more income. But if you don't understand the relationship of how debt impacts your wealth and how inflation impacts your wealth, then you continue gathering assets and you may not ultimately get wealthy. So ultimately, debt is, again, you're getting into a financial obligation with the promise or commitment that you're going to pay that money back in the future, either with interest or without interest. And it's very important that people understand that debt is not a bad thing. Having a good relationship with debt makes a whole lot of sense. Where you don't want to be is where you're using debt to just pay for things that are recurrent, not things that are capital, that generate capital and further assets and income for yourself. So if you are using debt to buy, for instance, shoes, cars, I say cars, but again, my next slide would explain all those things. Shoes, cars, and all these other things. Maybe it's not the wisest thing to be doing, unless maybe that car is being used for something else. So you need to be very mindful of how you use debt. If you're using it within your business and you've done your math to understand that the cost of the debt will be significantly offset by how much money you make in that business venture or in that asset you're buying to generate more income. That is, if the debt is 10% and the asset you're buying is going to guarantee you 30, 40%, then it makes sense to take the debt. But what you don't want to do is just not have a plan with debt, because in the end, it becomes a very insidious situation. It just drags you further down the wealth ladder. Inflation, another thing that you don't need to understand, a concept that is extremely important in Nigeria today, extremely important. Dr. Bajamo mentioned the inflation figures and the fact that it's reducing. But I'll still have to highlight very clearly that at 27%, which is where we currently are, inflation is still very high. And what effectively means is that your ability to spend 1,000 naira and use that 1,000 naira to take care of a number of needs has been reduced with inflation. I say inflation is the number one wealth destroyer, right? Because that's just what it is. If you were able to, if you had, I use my PFA as an example, my RSA, retirement savings account. If I had my retirement savings account, the balance I currently have today, 10 years ago, again, I'm not saying that that's what I have, but maybe I'll be able to buy 2 houses or 3 houses. But today, you can barely even buy 1 house. And wealth is what? Making sure you have significantly more assets. So again, your asset base, your wealth base has significantly reduced by virtue of just inflation. Again, what is inflation? Inflation is cement prices going up, construction sand going up, is even the roads going up, everything regarding the entire economy just going up. School fees have gone up. That's inflation. Your car that you bought maybe 5 million 2-3 years ago is now worth about 20 million. So that's inflation. And your ability to now generate 20 million has stayed the same from 5 years to now. Again, you are no longer where you thought you are. You're now significantly further down the ladder. You must pay attention to these concepts, because there are some assets that have been mentioned earlier that gives you access to manage your exposure to inflation. And if you're not in those assets, you will feel it. You feel the effect of the impact of inflation on your bottom line, just like everybody else's. But if you are in those assets, you protect yourself a whole lot more. All right, let me just. So I start speaking of everything. Sorry, my apologies here. See people, so my apologies. We are here. Let me just. Excuse me, I think there's something just happened there. Okay. Number one, first question is, can you hear me, please? So yes, now this is a question I typically will ask everyone. You have on your screen a car, call it whatever type of car it is. It's actually a Maserati, an Italian car. The first question I'd like everybody to kind of answer in the chat, and we'll come back to it in the Q&A session, is whether this is an asset or if it's a liability. Then again, just put your answers in the chat, and we'll circle back to this at the end of the presentation. So what are the various type of assets you have? You have equity stocks and stocks. Again, assuming zero knowledge on people on this table. Equities and stock effectively is just ownership in a company, having an ownership stake in a company, a vehicle, an SPV, or something of the sort, right? So this is where things like where your stock markets, Nigerian Stock Exchange, comes in. Your ability to buy into these type of assets, in these type of things, allows you to make, let's call it what it is, supernormal profits. Because again, companies come to the markets to raise capital because they believe they can turn that capital over to create supernormal profits over the long term. And if you're one of the people that then owns a portion of that company, for the foreseeable future, you get the profits that they generate. And ultimately, if it does very well, the share price goes up. So it's one of those things that is inflation protecting. But you need to be very careful because this is one of those risky assets, which means it can go up, it can go down. Yes, it can protect you from inflation, but it can also seriously put you in a situation whereby you're also crying all the way to your house and you just cry into your pillow because the market is very volatile. The market is volatile because the economy is volatile. Everything around you is volatile. So it is not assured. Nothing is assured in the stock markets or in equity. So I'll just go to bonds. But you must have a good understanding of equity before you want to go and play in it. It's not just saying, oh, which one is the good one and just buying it and going to sleep. You must constantly monitor how it's performing today, tomorrow, in the next 1 year, 2 years, as long as you hold it. You must always rebalance, reassess. Bonds is debt. Like I mentioned to you, that is a situation whereby an institution, a company, a person ultimately says, I want you to borrow money from you. And you lend that person money at a rate with the commitment that they'll pay XYZ% over a future period of time. Mutual funds, I like to call it the Esusu of the market. The reason why I say it's the Esusu of the market is because assuming you are a person that wants to buy Dangote cement, or let's say the more expensive thing, Seplat, right? The Seplats of this world, the Guinness of this world, but you don't have that much money because these things are like over 1,000 naira. But you still want to partake in the things like Seplat and Guinnesses of this world. Assuming you put 1,000 naira down, you can buy. Assuming if you put 10,000 naira down, you can buy significant units of these things. And the way stocks work is that you must buy a significant sum that allows you to enjoy the dividends of it. So because you can't afford to put the 100K down, the 10 millions down, the 20 million naira down to buy significant units. There are maybe 5, 10, 20, 100,000 people like you that come together and bring their 1,000, 20,000 together into a pot. And then what that pot effectively does is it starts investing in these companies that are high value, that give you good quality returns. And that's what effectively a mutual fund is. It's just a collective investment scheme. Someone has alluded to that already. Real estate, very important. I think it's one of the major inflation hedges that I have mentioned. If you were able to buy a house, if you wanted to buy a house in my area before, maybe it would have been like 60, 70 million about 10, 20 years ago. Now it's probably doing 200, 300 million. And that's just the situation. Why? FX has moved. The ability to buy cement and all the components to buy a house have all gone and doubled, right? Or tripled in some cases. So because of that, the value of the value, some total of the value that makes up the house itself has also gone up. Commodities. Gold is at the all-time high. That's just because the market is very volatile. The US is a little up and down. Nobody knows what is going to happen, especially with Trump and how he's approaching the economy. So a lot of people are being very fearful and going into gold. So gold is at an all-time high. Generally, nobody knows where global markets are going. So that's one of the reasons. Gold is one of those things that is not easily accessible to us in Nigeria. But with things like ETFs, you can buy on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. You can even download apps like I'm not endorsing anybody. This is just not an endorsement, but you can ultimately go to places like Trove, Bamboo, Shaka. Those kind of platforms give you access to foreign markets like the New York Stock Exchange, like London Stock Exchange. And these gold investments or commodity investments are very easy to find there. Now, artwork, this is one that I've recently come into contact with recently over the past couple of years. A lot of people are buying artwork, or a lot of people have artwork, Nigerian and foreign. And it will shock you that, I say this very with some level of humility because even I don't have artwork. I don't invest in artwork. The person that is investing in artwork has eaten and eaten well already, because that person can afford to buy a painting And if it looks one fine, whether it's fine or whether it's ugly, or the person has bought it, and maybe that painting is worth $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and the next thing you know, maybe because the person passed away, or maybe because the person is more popular, it's done times 2 or times 3. I even remember watching a CNN news article whereby someone just put a sellotape on a banana in an art gallery, and they said that thing was worth about maybe $100,000, $200,000. Again, it's people that have eaten well that do buy into things like this, because I still don't understand it myself, but it's an art class that people are investing in. Digital assets. Now, this one is one where a lot of young investors, people in the younger age bracket, are having quite a bit of interest. Is cryptocurrencies and tokenized assets. It's a lot of. I'll try to demystify it for you. It's effectively just one of my interns says it's magic internet money. Because ultimately what cryptocurrency is supposed to be a replacement for the currency. It's supposed to be borderless currency that's digital, that allows you to transact in the global market space. But at the back of it all is people still investing in it because they believe it's the future of the world. And ultimately, because people are heavily invested in it, because it was not initially fully adopted, and now people are moving into that level of adoption. It's moved from $100 to $1,000, $100,000. That's crazy. I know people that invested in Bitcoin as far as 2010, 2009. My former CEO actually mentioned it back then. I thought it was crazy, but here we are, $100,000. All right, so let me just move on. So one of the things, right, and the next slide basically says, sorry, 1 second. I think I just have an issue with my presentations. There might be some audio that is. Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. All right. So, right, and the next slide basically says, it now starts introducing you to what I call the risk reward curve. So what I was saying was that in this one, this is probably one of those important, really important principles that I think you need to make sure you leave this place with. And that's really about the pyramid, asset pyramid. The asset pyramid, if I'm so lucky to just mention, speaks to the level of risk you should be taking as you progress in your life, right? And how you should be and how you should approach investing. So, for instance, you have the base, the less risky, you have the middle, right? The more risky assets, and you have at the top, the most risky type of assets. I use this as an example because even for me as a human being, I remember when I was starting off in my career, and I think someone had already mentioned this as well. When you are coming in to your career, you definitely want to, you have not so much cash, you are very young, you can afford to take as much risk as we can. So on the back of that, you do want to do stuff like equities and whatnot. But the truth is, before you even start, and this is my own personal advice, before you even start investing in all these risky things, try and create a base for yourself. That base is what I refer to as the liquidity base. That one is where, if push comes to shove, if they want to throw you out of your house, you have your ability to go to it and draw from. And that's really your cash in the bank, your money market investments, your treasury bills with your bank or government bonds. These ones are the ones that, if anything happens and you need to get out of a jam very quickly, you can easily come to. So before you even start talking about, oh, I want to do stocks, I want to buy real estate, I want to buy artwork, make sure you have cash. You need to have cash. I need to have enough cash that will hold you to for the period of emergencies. So that's not just emergency funds. You should have cash, and then once you have cash, you then start pushing it into the more risky things. So for instance, right, you say you want to achieve a net worth target, or maybe let's say 25 million in the next 5 years. In your first year, make sure you have like 1 million or 2 million in the bank. And with 1 million or 2 million in the bank, maybe you grow that to by another 5 million in the second year. And then you start deploying that into riskier assets. When I say deploy, that basically means you're taking out of the cash and using it to buy something that is more risky, that will give you higher returns. So you take from your cash reserves, you buy stocks, you buy bonds, you buy mutual funds. And this was even my own approach when I was trying to get my own house. I stocked up so much on cash, not because I didn't believe in the stock market or any of those things, just because it was very, very clear that this was an imminent cash requirement that I needed to pay out. Or if it's something around a situation whereby you need to pay school fees, you start saving up and getting cash. You don't go and take your cash and go and put it in stocks and say, I want to use stocks to pay for my school fees. It doesn't work that way. When you have a timed obligation, when you say, okay, in the next 1 year, in the next 18 months, I'm going to do this, I'm going to pay out this, you want to be more in a situation whereby that thing is less volatile. When that obligation is in 20 years, 10 years, you can then start putting it in risky things, because should it even go down, at least you know you have enough time to reassess, recalibrate, and get into another position that can be better off. So again, risk pyramid, start from the bottom, get cash, make sure you get enough cash. And the good thing is, when you get that cash, look at markets turmoil. I say market turmoil because that's what it is. Look at situations whereby financially there's a lot of uncertainty. In those cases, when the market tanks, when NGX is going through bad situation, that is when you want to start saying, I want to take out of my cash and start buying stocks. Because what you then do is start buying things, cherry picking, what they call it, cherry picking. You start buying things at a significant discount. If it's a house, maybe it's a situation whereby, AMCON decides to start selling all their houses. Or maybe it's now time when people want to start selling all their houses. That's when you want to buy, because what you're then getting is significant discounts on those assets. So that when the turmoil ends, there's a repricing and the thing goes back up, and you are the one that is smiling to the bank. The mistake most people make is that they want to go in when the thing is hard, when the thing is hot. When the NGX is now the one talking about, we've had 12 years of a bull market. We've done, let's say 12 months or 12 weeks of a bull market, or the market is at the highest. That's when people now start coming in. That's not a good time. The good time is when things are fearful, when everybody's not sure about how the market is going to look. When maybe a year and a half ago, when people were worried about whether Nigeria will make it or not, that's when you now start buying. That's how institutional people make their money. And that's how people on this forum are going to be creating wealth. You need to look for those points whereby turmoil comes in so you can cherry pick. Look for cherry picking opportunities. If anything, make sure you leave this conversation understanding that concept. It is hard, it's not easy to master. It's very hard to be disciplined about it, but you must learn it if you want to be financially successful. On the screen, you can see big risks, take big risks, knowing that you might fall hard, but that's how the people that actually create wealth significantly do it. So, excuse me. Let me just go to the next slide. So now, I talk about debt, right? There's productive debt, disruptive debt. I mean, we've spoken a lot about creating your base and whatnot, because the truth is, whether you like it or not, in your life, in the course of your life, you will have a relationship with debt. Just know that it needs to be the right one. You need to be using debt to buy an asset, not using debt to fund recurrence. And I think that's the problem in Nigeria today. We're taking a lot of debts for recurrent expenditure. Right? And we're not using it for capital, for growing the capital of doing capital projects. That's actually going to grow the business, going to grow the economy of Nigeria itself, right? Now, understanding that and reprogramming your mindset to know that, okay, you can take debt for the right thing is where you need to be. Now, debt also can be it can be a significant drag in terms of how it delays your ability to create wealth creation when you are taking more than it should be, or when it's significantly overpriced. So you need to be making sure that you're not taking debt from the person that is giving you, let's say, 35% or 40% per year. If that is the case, you're almost going to get into a trap, what they call a debt trap, because you'll be struggling to effectively pay your interest on that specific facility, to the point whereby maybe you even start selling off good assets to pay off debt. You don't want to be in that kind of spiral, and that's the debt cycle that kind of walks away. So again, don't ever let debt outpace your income. You never let it outpace your income. Make sure that as you take debts, you take it responsibly. What you need to say no to, don't let the I'm trying to use the right words here. Don't let the world effectively guide you in terms of what is a need and a want. You need to be very firmly rooted in your understanding of yourself and be extremely disciplined. Know what is a need and know what is a want. And even when you have a need, know how to prioritize it right. Know the right timing. If it's not now, it's not now. Be able to just put yourself in that situation. It may come with a lot of pressure, but you just need to do what you need to do. I think I've already mentioned inflation, so I'll just move past it really quickly. But I do need to mention emergency fund and insurance. So let's just make sure that I discussed that before I move to the next slide. Emergency funds, I think, extremely important tool for wealth creation, because the truth is, there's this thing called black tax, and it happens all the time. Black tax is effectively, maybe you are the one that is doing very well in the entire family, or your entire family, and maybe nuclear and extended. Because you are then doing very well, a lot of people are looking to you. And it's not to say that you should not help people, but also be very measured in how you help people, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation whereby you help people to the point whereby even you too now need help. Because in that case, then if you get to that point of helping, how then do you help others? How then are you functional to other people around you? And sometimes again, that comes with creating a structure, a framework for their help. Saying, okay, this is how much money I want to be put aside to support different families. And outside of that money, and I think Doyin mentioned it in terms of structure and putting digital wallets, right? Outside of, once you exceed that, once you've hit that limit, just stop and say no. It's very hard, it's very disciplined, but again, you don't want to have a situation whereby even you now start needing help. Insurance and emergency situations help in those kind of those things, especially when, for instance, you have in healthcare emergencies. If you don't have insurance, that's another conversation. But healthcare emergencies, or something just happens out of the way. Again, some individual just ran into one of my vehicles, and unfortunately, my insurance had just expired. That was a major emergency that I had to take care of. That's been taken care of by emergency funds. Insurance needs to be something that protects your assets. So you can't do the work of now securing all these assets and not be able to protect them. Now, I think this is going to be one of those things that I will now focus on. I need a little bit more time, but I promise you I'm almost done. Now, you need to create a plan. Right, you need to first understand yourself. There's the quote I use in all these sessions: "Man, know thyself." Right, know yourself as much as possible as you set off into your life, even within the situation of, even as you are moving in from 18 to 35 to 40. Know yourself. Know where exactly you are. Know what you're capable of, what you're not capable of. Set financial goals at the beginning of every year. This might sound like New Year's resolution stories, but it is absolutely important. As you're writing on your health goals, you're writing your spiritual goals, make sure you also write down your financial goals and keep yourself accountable. I have one book of mine, I've written mine at the beginning of this year, and I have to check it every quarter to see how I'm even doing, right? And then again, like I said, build your emergency fund. So these are the goals. These are the goals and things you need to do. One thing I do mention, and again, leaning on what the previous speakers have spoken about, is savings and forced savings. One of the easiest way I did that at the start of my career was Esusu Ajo. It creates just very simple the discipline. It forces that discipline on you, whether you like it or not. Right? Ensure that you have, again, debt repayments. If you had debt, make sure you program that debt repayments into your monthly goals, and make sure that as much as possible, as you try to climb up that ladder, that debt, you make sure you have a plan to clear off debt first. In terms of when you want to build creation and wealth creation, clearing debt, personal debt, is one of those things you want to do before you even then start saying you want to expand into other things. Ensure that you have a conversation with yourself about maybe home purchase. Some people don't necessarily like home purchases. I initially was for it. I'm also now not necessarily for it, just because I've also seen how, depending on which aspect of the world you are in, things like politics and governance can easily affect how you get in and get out of these type of assets. Set KPIs for yourself. What size of the emergency fund do you want to have by the end of this year? And how much do you want it to grow? Same thing, I use school funds, for instance. I have those ones for my kids, such that if anything happens to me, at least that school fees is taken care of. Regardless of whether I'm there. So how much is that? What's the size of that? How much do you need to contribute to it? Again, you don't need to start large. You don't have to start with something big. Start even with something small. 50, 20K. It feels hard, but before you know it, it starts becoming what you're used to, right? It becomes what you're used to, and then it becomes second nature to you. So that when you now go up the ladder and you keep yourself in that level of keeping things, your means, you're keeping yourself within your means, you then, again, you're able to scale up your savings and emergency funds and build wealth. But you must be very frugal with yourself. And again, delayed gratification is what Odoyin mentioned. I say it's short-term pain for long-term gain. Short-term pain for long-term gain, especially when I'm trying to make these hard decisions. Those are the things I use to drive my actions. So I've already mentioned live well below your means, pay yourself first. And that's another thing. As you do this is a very practical point. As you start this journey, you will be tempted. I say this and it's very true. You'll be very tempted, because as you create that discipline, one day, maybe 3 months into the plan, 4 months into the plan, you will just be, what am I even doing this plan for? Self? Why? What's it for? I need to even treat myself. So that's how I'll just come and die. YOLO, you live only once. What you need to do to ensure that you don't ever get to that point is that you give yourself something at the end of the month. Reward yourself with a little something so that you don't get tempted with going off your plan. That will reduce pressure. Live well below your means. Invest very early. Have an accountability partner. For me, I sit down with my wife every quarter, every half year, to review our plan and say, this is what I'm doing. And for every financial decision I want to make, I sit her down, I explain things, I say, this is why I want to do it. Because it also helps me mentally make sure that I'm making the right decision for the right reasons. And again, besides just making the decision, it also helps somebody else have visibility into the assets I'm building for the family. Continuous financial education. This is also very important. Educate yourself as much as you can. The stages of life, I'll just quickly move on from that. I think it's been well discussed. How you and Doyi mentioned this as well. 50% needs. Again, needs, food, petrol, diesel, whatever it is. Your wants go into 30% and 20% into investments. If you can switch it from 30 to 20, that works. We're literally almost there. Please, just 3 more slides and then I'll just hop off. All right. So between 18 and I think this is actually more of 18 and 30, right? Things that you must be doing. Taking risks. You're probably in your first job or first set of careers, first maybe 5-10 years in your career, you're not earning as much, but you must at this point create that discipline. If you are within this age bracket, start now by creating a financial plan for yourself. Do that, create the discipline, create the framework. You will ultimately end up being better for it. If you don't do that now, you learn the hard way. It's harder to create that discipline as you go up. Doing it now helps you now. Now, we'll live well below your means, take higher risks, right? This is the time when you can create supernormal profits. That is when you can invest in something that is risky, that can more times 4 or times 5. And if you end up losing that money, you can start all over again. That's the beauty of having time. That's what this means. At this age in your life, God willing, you have many more years ahead. You have age on your time. You have time on your side. You can restart, start afresh, build knowledge, read as much as you can, follow people. I mean, social media is the thing. What people don't let you know is also you can also follow a lot of people on social media that talk actively about finance and help you get in that right mindset. So social media is not just about dancing on the next trend. Understand that you can get condition your mind using it in the right, is a tool just like anything else, in the right way of thinking. Build your assets and your war chest. This is when you do it. For me, this is when I got enough money to buy my first house before I was 36, right? And I got my first house before I was 36 just because I was disciplined, right? And this is for most people, I think. For me, this is the hardest portion of your life, sandwich era. You are supporting the people that have gone ahead of you, your parents, your seniors, the people that are looking at you are like, okay, you're more comfortable, but they are not as comfortable anymore. They're in the retirement phase. You'll be called on for additional support. This is the sandwich era of your life. Know that black tax becomes very real here and becomes very heavy. This is the point where you are paying for school fees. This is the point where you're paying for rent. This is the point where in fact, bills will overwhelm you. This is when you now need to draw on a little bit of your war chest to help you support. This is when you draw on those assets that have been helping you create additional income. If you don't have them now, creating those war chest and assets at this point is significantly harder, but not impossible. So you must create that discipline. This is why I said it's significantly harder, because you are so constrained. The financial outflow at this point in your life is significantly harder. So you must ensure that if you don't have these assets, you need to find a way to develop an alternate stream of income. They say side hustle it. Find a way to create additional income so that you can create this base before it is too late. Because by the time you're leaving this age bracket, it's already late to start creating assets, a wealth base for yourself. Yeah, at this point, this is the make or break of your life as it may be. So you must discuss your finances, you must discuss your assets with your significant other, or even if anything, have a lawyer to ensure that you have your will. And they mentioned life. They've mentioned the will. You must, at this point in your life, you must definitely have a will. As I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself as well. It's hard to have those conversations because we are then ultimately faced with our mortality. But you must do it so that you can ultimately do what we call asset transmission. So that if anything happens to you, the people that you worked so hard to give something to can eventually have it. If not, things like family squabbles, things like they can't find where the asset is. They don't know where anything is. Before you know it, they never get it. And I've seen so many cases of that happen. So at this point in your life, you are, again, I probably just have like 2 slides left. This point is just preservation. You're not building any base. You're not buying stocks. You're not buying anything. You just have the one thing. You have your war chest. You have your investment of cash. You have your savings. And the only thing that they'll be paying you is something on a monthly basis. If you have stocks already, those things will be paying you dividends. If you have bonds, they'll be paying you their coupons. You must, at this point, do not venture into do not be tempted by the MMMs of this world. Do not try and do anything fancy. Just keep it simple. At this point, you want to be able to just, where need be, support the people that are in the sandwich generation if they need the support. And again, just be able to do things for yourself. Again, life is for the living, especially at this point. Yeah, and again, be very mindful that inflation is at this point, because you've created so much a wealth base for yourself. You've created so much. Inflation is what you want to guard against. That is 60-70% of the major focus that anybody in this place needs to be looking at. If you're not performing above inflation, you are dropping down the wealth ladder. Like if you had 10 million or 100 million or 500 million, every year it comes down and your ability to pay and support yourself then starts dropping. Generational wealth, and this is the last slide. Thank you very much for your patience. So at this point, you want to be having a conversation with the trustees. It's been mentioned earlier, and it's a very important thing because you've seen too many times unclaimed dividends, or some person's house doesn't have papers. We don't know where the papers are. The next thing is somebody comes and takes the house. We are in court for the next 20 years. We don't know what to do. You want to make sure that at this point you must have your will, you must be talking to your lawyer, you must have a living trust, you must be teaching your children. Yeah, you must be teaching your children. Some people say don't give out your inheritance to your children. I'm like, what's the whole point? Enjoy your life, but ensure that the others that are coming after you also have something to start on, because the truth is you started with somebody else's foundation. So at this point, I think I'll just say be mindful of all these concepts. And the truth is, continue to just educate yourselves, and really do appreciate the RCCG for inviting me. And I do hope that at least I've been able to help you guys, give you some pointers that will help you on your financial journey. Thank you very much. And I think I'll just take questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Folagbade. We really appreciate the time. Thank you. Thank you. And because of our time, we had put in about 10 minutes for questions, but we're out on that already. So we'll go immediately to the panel discussion. But just so all attendees know, you can still type your questions. We have our guests take them. So Dr. Bumi, Mrs. Doyin, now Mr. Folagbade, please go to the message point and help answer the questions there. So we'll go straight to panel discussion. Dr. Onoma, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Ann. Thank you, everyone who has been on the group on this call today. Thank you for all the discussions, the insights that you have given to us since the beginning of this program. I'm sure that a lot of us have learned one or two things from these discussions. And we know that we are here to talk about something that affects every single one of us, and that is our financial well-being. In today's world, managing our finances can be quite overwhelming, from budgeting to saving to investing and planning for the future. The journey to wealth creation is unique for each and every one of us. So our goal here today is to demystify some of these topics and provide insights and actionable advice along with new perspectives that we can adopt to help our wealth creation journey. I am your moderator, Onoma Mbembe, and I'm excited to introduce to you our panelists. So first on our list is Mrs. Abike Wesse. Mrs. Abike Wesse, fondly called Coach Wesse, is the Managing Director or Executive Director, I beg your pardon, of Royal Gate Aspire Limited, a HR learning and development, leadership and coaching firm. She has over 30 years experience in human capital development and is a chartered professional in human resources in Canada, in UK, and in Nigeria. She's a mentor, she's a speaker, and also a trainer. Please make welcome as we welcome Mrs. Abike Wesse. Our second panelist is Mr. Folagbade Adeyemi. As you have just heard him speak, he's the Managing Director of Ancoria Investments and Securities. He's an expert in market operations, fintech innovations, and financial markets development. He's also an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. And our last panelist is Mrs. Doyin Anyehie. She's the executive director at the Alpha Morgan Bank, and has over 20 years in the banking sector. As we all know, she's an alumnus of Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, and is also an alumnus of the Harvard Business School. So thank you, my panelists. You're welcome to today's discussion. Before we start, we will set up some ground rules. Please, I would appreciate if we will stick to the time. Each panelist will have 3 minutes to respond to your questions. And if there's any follow-up question, you have 1 minute to attend to it. After the discussion, we'll open up the floor and allow our participants to ask their questions, either virtually or they could call in to ask their questions. Please, let's try to keep the discussions concise and focused to the topic at hand. Thank you. So we'll go straight to the discussion. Mr. Folagbade, in your presentation, you listed out some of the assets that we should make investments in, trying to explain to us the different assets that are available for us in our financial wealth creation. And I noticed that you listed digital assets as number 7, which came last. So my question to you is, what are digital assets? And are they safe investment options against the traditional investment options that have been tried and tested? Please share more light on digital assets for our viewing public.
All right, thank you very much. So digital assets, like I mentioned to you, fall into, let's call them 2 major buckets, right? One is the assets that fall within the crypto space, crypto domain. That is cryptocurrency. It's effectively almost saying that you want to invest in currency, like the US dollar or pound, because some people actually trade Forex, like has been mentioned earlier. But crypto ultimately is a new type of currency, the digital type of currency. Let's call it the currency of the future, that allows people to transact easily on a blockchain-based network across the globe without any financial restriction. It's not bound by any central bank. It is not issued by Mr. Cardoso, who normally would sign our currency 100 naira, 200 naira. It's not issued by any central body. It is effectively issued on the back of computing power and cryptography. It's a lot of English, but ultimately it's just another form of currency. Let's just call it that. Why is it a safe? And that's just one aspect of the digital assets. We also have tokens, right? Tokens are effectively, let's just say, assets that are in real world. That might be a house, a car, or a hybrid of other things that people just represent and unitize. When I say unitize, instead of buying an entire house, right? What people are not doing is that they'll break their house into maybe 1,000 pieces and tell you that if you want to buy a house in Banana Island, you can buy 1 unit of that house in Banana Island, right? And that is effectively what a token is. It's almost taking asset that maybe would have been out of reach of the people like you and I, and just allowing us to buy it for maybe $1, $1, right? And that's what effectively what tokens are. Are they good investments? I think that's a relative question. They are not tested in a real sense because your stocks, your bonds have been issued on the back of the current traditional system for the past, 10 decades, not even 10 decades, like hundreds of years ago, right? When the financial system was still coming and becoming mature. So these traditional assets have been tested. The new assets that we're talking about, not so much, but the truth is the market is slowly adopting these things, is getting relevant. I do think that people, as they try to get interest in these things, should be very mindful of the fact that it's extremely volatile. So as you want to invest, be mindful of that fact I wouldn't, in this case, sell my entire house and go and put it in crypto. No, that's not the case. But do I, as someone who is young and looking for additional investment options, should I be looking at these spaces? Yes, I do think so. I do think so. Like I mentioned to you earlier, 10 years ago, Bitcoin was doing about $100 or less, right? Now it's over 100,000. You can imagine the impact of you maybe having Dr. Onoma having what if I just dashed you 100,000 bitcoins in your wallet. Trust me, you know the way I'll be talking to you will be different. I wouldn't even be able to look you in the eye because the valuation is totally different. So yes, you want to have some exposure to it, but you need to be very mindful of the fact it's extremely volatile. It can be 100,000 today, it can be 5,000 tomorrow, it can be zero the day after. So yes, you should have some interest in it, but be mindful of the fact that it's volatile. The more volatile it is, the older you are, the less volatile asset you want to be investing in. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Well, to a large extent, as much as you made mention of the volatility. So my second question is, what strategies can investors employ? So if I want to go into these digital assets, what strategies should I employ, should I adopt to manage the inherent risks associated with it? When we talk about things like security breaches that we experience these days in the digital space.
Yes.
Yeah. So
in that,
what can we do to manage those uncertainties?
So if I don't want to say I'm an old timer, but if you're in the older age bracket like me, first things first is must educate yourself. With all investments, you have to do a deep dive into understanding the nature of the assets you want to get into. So that's even from a point of even knowing what you're getting into. Secondly, you must be more tech aware. You must be you must have a higher threshold for tech adoption, because you can't be talking about crypto without having a good understanding of what blockchain is, how it works, and the security protocols around your wallet and whatnot. So for instance, I have my brother, I remember the time he invested in crypto. This was about 5 years ago. He clicked on something by mistake. And next thing is his entire wallet was empty just because he clicked on a link and effectively maybe it was a phishing link. So you have to be, again, from an information security standpoint, you must have a level of adoption that allows you to know what the types of threats are that exist and avoid them like the plague. So educating yourself around all these IT protocols, security protocols is very, very key. And if you don't know how to get it, I would advise that you have a discussion with someone that is more versed in it before you start doing anything in those spaces. Yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
Okay, so as a follow-up, are there regulatory agencies that manage these security breaches or that provide education for people who are interested in investing in digital assets? Please, 1 minute to answer that.
Okay, yeah, I'll be very quick about that. So are there agencies that manage breaches? I wouldn't say within our space, not really. Probably if you want to have a conversation about anything regarding crimes, financial crime, it's still probably the best institution will still be like the EFCC. But I don't think EFCC is going to be having a conversation with you about your blockchain transaction and your loss, right? But from an international standpoint, yeah, there are institutions, but not within Nigeria. I don't think that's a case. So you're largely still going to be very exposed. From a regulatory standpoint, the SEC is now very much more. The SEC is extremely focused on the crypto space, even though it's still growing in terms of regulation. But at least that's the one major space that I know that the major regulator that I know has some level of interest in terms of the crypto exchanges that exist that people typically will go to have a transaction in. They regulate them by registering them and ensuring that any kind of untoward activity is managed at that level. So I hope that at least covers provides the response you require.
To that extent, thank you. Mrs. Wessey, thank you very much for being on the call today. Mr. Folabade had mentioned along the lines of black tax. He gave a snippet as to what black tax is, and he made mention that there are financial supports that people who are economically buoyant render to family members, friends, colleagues, and stuff. So what strategies can individuals use to manage this financial burden of black tax? And how can they prioritize their own financial goals and well-being, knowing the kind of environment we are in? Because we're a society that is dependent largely on family relationships and extended relationships. Yeah, so what can we do to help our financial well-being in that regard?
Thank you, Dr. Uloma. So in Africa, especially, people believe that once a member of the extended family has some cash, it belongs to everybody. But just like all the speakers have said, we need to set clear boundaries. Maybe have a budget, for support, quarterly or monthly. And once the family has already met the budget, let dependents or extended family know that it's not convenient for us now, but we'll consider you later. Another thing is to distinguish between need and want. Because most times people believe that your money belongs to the family. So you should be able to know when whatever request is a need or want. And there are times when you even tell people that I'm short of money now, and they still send you account number, that no amount is too small. So that shows that, they believe that they need to get a portion from you. That if the black tax is coming from extended family, you can also incorporate other members, other siblings, so that you are not the only one bearing the burden. So those are some of the strategies, and our speakers actually spoke to that. To be able to prioritize personal financial goals, pay yourself first. Warren Buffett said, just like Doyin mentioned, Warren Buffett said, save first and spend the rest. Don't spend before saving. I realized that when I worked in banks, bankers are the ones always coming to HR to, ask whether salary has dropped because they live large. They are the ones you see maybe in restrooms checking designers or gold, and before the end of the month they're already, or they take all the available loans just because they cannot prioritize. You need to set financial goals. If you don't have goals, your financial goals, you go with the flow. Your money goes with the flow. So you need to set financial goals, not a New Year resolution, because that's seasonal. What do I want to achieve in 2025 as far as, my finance is concerned, and work towards the goals. Be intentional after setting the goal and check to see, whether you are working towards your goal, and if you derail, bring yourself back. Another thing is to adopt healthy money mindset. Don't feel bad when you tell people no. It's not wickedness. Also, you need to teach people how to fish than just to be giving them money. I have a former schoolmate who was always calling for money. Many years ago, I asked her, what business can you do? Unfortunately, maybe because of mindset, she couldn't really think of, she just said recharge card. I said, how much are you going to make from recharge card? So you need to, plan yourself and ensure that, you guide yourself. Also, like we've been told, get a financial planner. What you don't know, you don't know. Get a financial planner. This is how much I have, and this is, guide me on what I can do, because knowledge is powerful. And lastly, balance generosity with self-care. Don't hurt yourself. Even the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself, not more than yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wesley.
You're
as-
muted.
Can you hear me, please?
No.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So from a HR perspective, what steps are taken to create a psychologically safe workplace where employees feel comfortable discussing their financial challenges? Is there anything within the workplace that can help an employee to be able to ask for support without the fear of being judged or looked down on?
Thank you so much. So you realize that professionals are the ones that actually lack knowledge, of how to plan their finances. I remember when MMM came and I was working in a technology company, I was telling them that this thing will fail. It's a matter of time. They said, no, you are old school, and a lot of them shouted on me and said I should not say that I don't know the amount they are making every month on MMM until it's crashed. So for professionals, there needs financial planning training needs to be embedded in the learning and development initiatives so that professionals can be taught, how to plan their finances. Also, today you have employee assistance program in organizations. So if we talk about health, we talk about physical health, emotional health, there should be an assistance program on discussing finances to create a psychological, safe, place where people can talk, to financial experts so that they can be guided. Because before you know it, over 20-something years will just go like yesterday. And if, just like Folagbade said, if you have not done what you're supposed to do at a particular stage of life, the person will be living in regret. Also, managers can be trained so that managers can guide their team members, because when a staff is having financial issues, the person cannot be productive. And if you actually need your staff to be productive as managers, you need to help them, when they are going through these challenges, and guide them on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mrs. Doyin, thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay, so I've heard of this word, life cycle investment options. Can you help us to shed some light on what it is and how can it be tailored to an individual's financial goals, his risk tolerance, and their circumstances?
Well, simply life cycle investment basically means to enter investment vehicles or make investments in investment outlets that give consideration to your stage in life. So as I said during my presentation, the younger you are, the more risk you can take because you have the time to both recover and wait out any investment decision you take, versus the older you are, where you're either nearing retirement or at retirement, where you have less employable skills, you don't have the time, energy, or strength to enter an investment that, should you lose, it would make it difficult for you to recover or to wait out, the investment, the horizon. So really, what it simply is, the younger you are, the more risky you can be. The older you are, the less risky you should be. So while in your 20s, your 30s, you can invest in more aggressive investment opportunities. You can do more cryptocurrencies, NFTs, aggressive funds, aggressive growth funds. But the older you are, the more you want to, like, your focus should now be capital preservation. What you have already gathered, you want to preserve it. And what you'll be looking at is investment in low risk investment vehicles like treasury bills, government bonds, money market instruments. You want to avoid things like commercial papers, because commercial papers are unsecured borrowings by the issuer. You know, you just want to preserve your capital by staying low risk. In terms of risk appetite, some younger people are still risk averse. Risk appetite is usually a reflection of a person's view of, you know, what the outcome would be. So that one, it really doesn't matter whether you're young or old. A young person can be risk averse and will never buy cryptocurrencies, will never invest in anything high risk. They will still stay in the moderate risk bracket. While even an older person who's always been a risk taker may still be willing to, in spite of the fact that they are near retirement, still willing to take more risk. So risk appetite is a function of the person, but all of this can be moderated with information. It would be foolhardy to just be a risk taker without really weighing the pros and the cons, and it will also be too conservative to just be risk averse without really understanding how risk works and how investments work, and you're just shying away from plunging or taking risk when it might actually be to your benefit.
If I'm to ask the three of you individually, I'll start with Mr. Bolagbade. In one word, what brings you financial peace?
What brings me financial peace? Honestly speaking, it's a plan. Having a plan for me removes a lot of uncertainty. Recreates the structure that even allows for any kind of X factor that might come during the course of my life or year, right? Having that, what I call buffer, right? Having that buffer, being disciplined in today to ensure that when that unknown event that might ultimately draw me down at a level whereby I don't know, having that buffer as a result of a plan then gives me that comfort and peace. Because in the end, what we are talking about, wealth is really just a state of mind, right? That comes on the back of your ability to balance your assets and liabilities, right? So that's where I see it. Ultimately, it starts from having a plan and knowing what you want to do. Once the plan it doesn't exist, I don't have peace. I don't have that wellness that would school fees becomes a terror for me, effectively.
Planning. Mrs. Doyin.
For me, it would be to first be true to myself. Like, I know how much I earn, and I know what I can do with what I earn. I know that I've made the types of investments that I know I should have, such that I don't need to worry about the future, right? And then also being content, right? Because like somebody had shared about, there's a whole other universe where money is being made, and it's in the attention economy, social media, where, you know, if you put yourself out there, you're a content creator, you can make so much money on YouTube and all of that. I know myself that I'm not willing to go and be doing YouTube and I'm making skits. So I'm content where I am. I would love to make $4 million or $40 million in 1 year, but am I willing to put myself outside there to do that? No. So I'm content. So contentment, and then just knowing how to manage what I already have, and, you know, investing in a way that secures my future is okay for me.
Mrs. Wesley, in one word.
Thank you. So, what gives me financial peace at this age is I still add value, I still impact life, and I can afford what I want, and I don't have to rely on the children. So if anything comes from them, glory be to God. But, I have different sources bringing money in different ways, whether I'm sleeping or awake, that I don't have to worry about where to get money as you're growing older. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So our participants, if you have any questions, please, you can send in your questions. Our panelists are still available to answer your questions. And without wasting much time, we'll go straight to the next discussion. And that is Mrs. Abike. She'll be taking us on practical next steps. Having heard all that we have heard this evening, what are the things that we need to do going forward? Mrs. Abike will be taking us on actionable steps that we need to adopt to have a to experience financial well-being.
Please unshare so I can share my slide. So good evening once again, everybody. It's been a wonderful, time together talking about finances, because actually what helps us to be able to fulfill destiny is how we spend our money. Is my screen showing, please? Hello, is my screen showing?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So we have 7 steps to financial freedom. This is just like summing up what everybody has been talking about since 3 o'clock. Define your financial goals. Like I said, if you don't have goals, you just go with the flow. Anywhere will take you to anywhere, So you need to define your financial goals, whether in the short term, the mid-term, or long-term goals. What do I want to achieve in the next 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year? Number 2, know your numbers, track your income. How much is coming in for me? What's my number regarding expenses? What assets do we have? How can we get more? And create a realistic budget. Every month, have a realistic budget, just like one of us mentioned, let's be contented. There's no need for competition. It's your race, run your race. Thirdly, build an emergency fund, like 3 to 6 months expenses. In those days when I was working in banks, when some of our colleagues lose their job, in 2 months, when they come, you won't recognize them again. And most salary earners are like that. We need to create an emergency fund in case something happens, so that life will still continue. By the time you fast and pray and God will answer your prayer, you still be looking fresh. Eliminate debt. Especially, you have a lot of app now where people go to borrow money. Eliminate debt as much as you can do that. If you're not spending the debt on, assets, eliminate it. If it's just, for day to day, because it puts strain and stress, on someone's health once you are indebted, and debtors are calling every day. Invest for the future. We've heard about various investment stocks, mutual funds. You can increase your pension, real estate, diversified investment, invest for the future. We should look beyond today when we are investing. Increase your income stream. No matter your age, you can increase your income stream. It doesn't have to come, once it's coming from one, stream, because of inflation rates. If we are going through hyperinflation now, 27%, and there's no investment you can actually do that can give you 27%. So we need to increase our income stream such that income is coming from various avenues so that we have more to be able to do more. And lastly, protect and maintain your wealth. Diversify, get professional advisors, stay disciplined. Even if you achieve your goal for last year, don't relax and start enjoying. Just continue to stay disciplined and continue to do the right thing. So thank you. I'll hand over back to Dr. Uloma. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ma.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for making it very sharp. Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate practical steps from you, and we'll really work on them. So before I call on our pastor, Pastor Kunle Onokoya, just to say a big thank you to Dr. Bumi Badjomo, Mrs. Doyin Ayehe, Mr. Folagbade Adeyemi, and Mrs. Abike Wesi. Thank you for impacting knowledge. Thank you for making us financially better. We have learned a lot today, and can we promise to do better going forward? We promise to do better going forward. So, Pastor, over to you, sir. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so very much. I think it's been a really, really exciting and impactful 3 hours. Now, I cannot imagine if we were to be charged for this, how much you will have been asked to pay. So once again, to join you in saying a very, very big thank you to all our panelists. It was interesting as Mr. Folagbade was defining wealth. And as he was doing that, I remembered what my old teacher in business school says. And he says, the definition of wealth is simple. You are not wealthy until you have more money than your wife can spend.
Yeah.
I didn't really hear anybody using that definition. So maybe a few people are clapping. I can suspect what the agenda is, the people that are clapping. But that is my own definition of wealth. But having said that, I think we have learned a few things this afternoon and evening, May in particular. While the pastor in charge of the province was praying for us, he prayed a particular prayer, and he says that God should deliver us and not let us get into the trap of having wealth without working, of creating wealth without work. But I think what we have learned, while that prayer is extremely key, because again, by the time you fall into that trap, you are no longer a Christian. What we have learned this evening is how to then work, avoid working, but not having wealth. You pray that God doesn't make you create wealth without work, but you also don't want to work and not make wealth. So the two should go hand in hand. And I think that is a lot of what we have learned this evening. For me, again, 2 other ways I can summarize what we have been told is that you should make your money work for you. Rather than you working and sweating for the money, you should make your money sweat for you. Money is designed to work, and you should make a plan for how you commit that money to work. And I think we are being told, it was a bit uneasy when I heard that by the time you get to my own age, if you had not made the plans, then you have missed the boat. But I think there are a lot of people who are still in the age group where all that we have learned today become very, very important, become very, very relevant. And once again, we say a very good thank you for that. Sister Abike did remind us that you should not save what is left after spending, but you should spend what is left after saving. And I think that ratio of 50, 30, 20, I suspect that you can customize it into what works for you. And as you go through the different ages, the percentages might vary. But the important thing is to make a commitment plan. I like to say when I'm in some specific environments that a fool and his money are soon parted. And the prayer is that we should not be one that spends his money at noon time, wasting the resources, earning the resources and wasting them. And then in the evening of the day, you discover that the opportunity has since slipped. But my bit is not to give another lecture. It's just to, I think, some of the highlights, particularly the highlights for me, and then also to say a very big thank you. Sister Misa did thank all our panelists, but I suppose the very humble person that she is, she did not thank our own in-house staff, and that is in the person of herself, Sister Misa Idehe, my very own Midoc, Dr. Unoma Ngbendi, and Sister Abike Wese, who today wears two caps, one as a resource person, the other as an organizer. And I believe that at somewhere in the background of all this, stoking the fires, is Sister Onome Komolafe. A very, very big thank you to each and every one of you. It's been a very, very engaging session. Financial Wellness 1.0 was very good. And I was wondering this morning that can they really surpass that bar that they had set for themselves? And for those that had the opportunity to attend both, I think the answer is clear. So I will watch this space for Financial Wellbeing 3.0. And again, just as you have now made us accustomed to, we expect that the delivery will be even higher still. Last but one, to say a very big thank you to the pastor in charge of province and his wife that they have interrupted their time away to join us in this session. PICP did open the session and prayed for us at the beginning. And I also saw that Mommy PICP was active in the Q&A section. Thank you so very much, sir and ma'am. My prayer is that all that we have learned today, even as we were prayed for at the beginning, we will not be guilty of them. We receive the grace to go ahead and do likewise. And we will not be found guilty of not of hearing, but not being able to do. My prayer is that for each and everyone that have attended the sessions today, the gate of lack, the gate of poverty will be permanently shut, and we walk into our financial wellness. So shall it be in Jesus' name. Sister Mison, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. As is our custom, everyone at the back end will put on their camera, but especially to thank Mr. Tunji Komolafe. So I have two HODs at the back end. I call them my HODs, Mr. Tunji Komolafe and Mr. Talabi Olushola. They've been amazing. We will not be here without their technical support. Thank you for all you have done. Thank you for what you will do. They are here with us, so they can't see me smiling. Thank you for what you will do. Thank you.
And they just show their faces and wave.
3.0 together.
I say, can they just show their faces and wave? Thanks to Brother Talabi, he was the one who made up the link for me.
So they are behind the scene, really behind the scene, so they won't show their faces. So thank you so much. So please, Pastor Ephraim and Pastor Nokoya, please, Mommy Onome, show your faces and let's end this. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We truly, really appreciate the time. Thank you to our guest. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you want to unmute? Yes. So we have the wife of the PICP. She probably wants to speak. We can see her hands raised. You see the technical guys, they're working. They are the ones behind telling us what's happening. Okay. So we've unmuted you, ma. You can please speak. Can you hear us, ma? Please unmute from your end. You can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, ma.
Okay, I said that must have been an accident, raising up my hand to unmute. I wanted to just clap, clap, clap for you people, and I'm sure maybe I clicked the wrong thing. But nevertheless, I'd like to say thank you to all our speakers, the organizers, everyone for this very inspiring, informative, and quite enlightening that many of us are wishing if we had heard this like about 20 years ago, things would have been much more different, but at least we're hearing it now. We start from where we are. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye.
Thank you so much, ma. So great that your hands were raised. Bye, everyone. See you in 2.3.0, right? Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you all and bye.